The next generation of racing is here. Hello, I'm Lee Diffie from Speed and welcome to iRacing.com, an innovative PC-based simulation service that allows you to climb into a virtual race car and compete head-to-head against thousands of other racers, starting with rookies to top-level pros from all over the world. At the core of the iRacing service is the most accurate and sophisticated racing simulation software ever created. And it's so good that professional racers swear by it as a training tool. Drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Justin Wilson, AJ Allmendinger and Alex Gurney, and many of them compete frequently in iRacing's online race series. But iRacing isn't just a training tool for the professionals. It's the basis of a new branch of motorsport, making the fun and excitement of real-time, professionally sanctioned racing available to everyone. iRacing offers unlimited seat time for a lot less money than you spend each month on your phone bill. And you don't need high-tech equipment or a computer engineering degree to get started. All you need is a reasonably current personal computer, a PC-compatible wheel and pedal set that you can buy online or at your local electronics store for less than $100. And finally, a broadband internet connection. iRacing's easy-to-use web-based service includes a quick start guide that makes it simple to download the software and start racing. Once you're in, you're away. iRacing has a wide variety of cars and tracks available, all modelled to the finest detail. Every major North American track and a diverse selection of oval and road racing machines. And new ones are being added all the time. Whether you're a pro wanting to tune up for your next event, an amateur attempting to learn a new track, or someone who dreams of enjoying the thrills of high-speed competition, iRacing offers everything from practice to arrive and drive racing to World Championship competition. Check out iRacing.com to see how easy it is to get started. The next generation of racing is here.
Back in 1909, a revolution started about 5 miles northwest of the capital of Indiana. It was a revolution that measured 2.5 miles in length, with 4 equally perfectly banked corners at 90 degrees, with 2 long straightaways exactly 7/8 of a mile. And then 2 years later, another revolution started. The revolution that became known as the Indianapolis 500. The winner that day was Ray Harroun, and back then, there was no command. There was no Jim Neighbors singing Back Home Again in Indiana. There was no bottle of milk, no balloons flying over the pagoda as the cars lined free away to start the race. But that revolution, it's evolved over the years to what we know today. Back in 2010, the online revolution started as the iRacing.com service launched the virtual Indy 500, with over 1,000 drivers around the world in their living rooms getting ready to run those famous 500 miles, which is one of the toughest tests in all of racing. Today marks the 5th anniversary of that race, and we're proud to bring it to you here on PSR TV and iRacing Live. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Will Vincent along with Aaron Likens and Paul Jenkins at the world's greatest racetrack, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana. We are about 5 minutes away before the drivers head themselves down the grid, and Aaron, it is that moment right now that everything goes out the window. You are focusing one of the toughest, longest journeys in all of racing.
And for these drivers, well, this is the race they wait all year for. You can run leagues, you can run the official session, but the official Indy 500 on iRacing, this is what all these drivers wait for. You can win the official series championship, you can win league titles, but this is the race that if you don't get this race, you didn't have a good year.
And Paul, this is this is the closest Indy 500 field we have ever seen. We covered a little bit of a final day qualifying, and there were drivers separated by just thousandths of a second. The cutoff to get into the race, just 3 1,000ths of a second. That is inches on a 4-lap run over 10 miles.
The amount of precision required to make those 4 laps at those speeds is just, it really, there's no way to describe it without experiencing it, Will. And these guys have put in so much time and so much effort to just make it to today. And now, all of that work for getting into the show and all of that qualifying work, you hit the reset button. It's all on now. Now you've got the race. You've got 200 miles of cars that are so closely matched to each other. And with so much time dedicated to working on qualifying setups, today is really going to bear out who did their homework for race setups.
And you talk about race setups and qualifying. In qualifying, there was one driver, Aaron, who was able to dominate, and that was John Paquin. Whilst we were talking about thousandths of a second for everyone else, he was able to be 4/100ths of a second faster than anyone else in the field. But we've got to remember that Paquin's journey at the Speedway has been one of heartbreak. 2010, 2011, 2012, he couldn't get it done on the grandest stage of all. And we are talking about possibly one of easily the top 5 drivers ever to strap themselves into a virtual IndyCar here on the iRacing service.
And if he could pull this off, what a victory it could be. But qualifying and 200 laps here, 2 completely different animals. Qualifying, you're by yourself. Some drivers thrive under those conditions. Other drivers will pick up maybe a tenth, 2/10 of a second if they have a car 2 seconds in front of them, because they get that determination. They can just dig deeper. They can drive harder. So for John Paquin here, winning here today would be great. His pulse time over second place is, when we talk IndyCar terms, an eternity. But how good will his car be in dirty air potentially? We don't know. It's one thing to lead. It's another thing to have cars around you, and we'll have to see how his car handles that. We have seen that with many drivers here in other races when they get out front, but mid-race, if they lose the lead due to strategy, things just don't go their way.
And Paul, you talked a moment ago about race setup and qualifying setup. For some of these drivers, because of the fact that they had to literally wait until that final session to guarantee their place into the field, they didn't get all the track time they needed under race conditions. They were having to qualify right until the last moment. And I look back from about P20 onwards, we're talking 1/1000th here, 1/1000th there. These guys at the rear of the field, this first 100, 150 laps is going to be a test session for them in many ways.
It really will. You just, with all the work that has to go into just making it to the show here, you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of guys here who were able to put some work in, but never really got an opportunity to work the car in traffic. And this car, and we can go into it a little bit more into the race, but this car is very much different than the previous car in terms of how aerodynamics work, the tire dynamics and everything, and how this car actually reacts in the draft. So yeah, we could talk certainly more about that as the race goes on.
So we are about 30 seconds away from going to the grid here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Aaron, going to be a crazy 500 miles ahead of us.
Gonna be crazy. Lots of unknowns here. And Paul was right. Some of these drivers and this is just like Indy in the 90s. You'd have teams qualifying and just doing test session after test session to just get into the race. And then when it came race time, they didn't have a race set up.
So the checkered flag is out, and that will signify the end of practice. And now drivers will head themselves down to the race grid, and we'll run through your grid as well. And starting on the front row with a qualifying time over 4 laps, the average lap time for that is a 39.438, and that is P1 Racing's John Paquin. Lining up alongside him is Rick Music, 4/100ths of a second back. Row number 2, Ron Mayer Jr. and Tim Holgate. Row number 3, Ryan Norton and Ricardo Denuzzo, the first non-American in the field. Daniel Lipensky and Brandon Trost in row number 4, Martin Miller and Joshua Chin. They round out your first 5 rows. And before we went on air, Aaron, we were talking about this really is a who's who of IndyCar in this field. But then once you get down to P19, you see the 2-time peak antifreeze series champion, Ray Alfano.
Yeah, Ray Alfano making I don't know if I've ever seen him in an IndyCar. So this is a almost a Kurt Busch, so to speak, situation with him coming over to run Indy. So a very neat situation there. But you're right, the top 10 is essentially a who's who. Actually, we can go to 15, 16, 17th. In fact, most of this field, full-time IndyCar drivers that we see in various leagues. But, well, I would say what's about to happen, this is going to be, and I don't think our outside pole setter started, but this is the longest pace lap of the year.
It really is. And just to give you an update on Ray Alfaro, of course, he did actually run in the 2010 iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. He came home third in that race. He had a shot of winning in what was a crazy finish to that event. And Indianapolis has been full of crazy finishes. And yesterday, in the Friday edition, we had a fuel mileage finish. And we'd like to welcome in our in-race reporter, as well as the champion of that race, Jonathan Goke, on your pace lap. First of all, congratulations on taking victory yesterday.
Hey, thank you, Will. It's good to be here with you guys. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Paul.
Yeah, hello.
So, yesterday, fuel mileage race, just 4 cautions. Looking for something similar today, because we did the over-under. It could be anything. We've seen very short races here, races full of attrition. How do you think it's going to work?
I am not sure how this one's going to work. I know that I'm going to pit early and often to try to keep out of the carnage and just make it to the end. We got Norton, Alfala, Paquin is in here. I mean, there's no way we're going to know what's going to happen. I just hope to finish. Looking for a top 10 in this awesome field.
Well, good luck. We'll talk to you over the course of this race. And very quickly before you go, how was it drinking that milk after that victory yesterday?
Milk has never tasted better in my life.
Well, congratulations on your victory yesterday, Jonathan Goke. However, meanwhile, the pace car is working itself right now through corner number 3. We've got Matt Lambertson. He has actually pulled his car off of the racetrack. We'll see whether or not he'll actually take the green flag. However, the cars are currently working themselves down the short chute, down towards turn number 4, and it is P1 Racing's John Paquin on the inside of row number 1, and those cars are going to get ready to go any moment now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 here on PSR TV and iRacing Live, and it will start right now. And a really good start there by Paquin. They are too wide already. Holgate is falling into line as the cars come down into turn number 1, Aaron.
There they come into turn 1. Good start by Paquin. Good start by Holgate. He didn't want to be hung out on the outside. So we are single file all the way back to about 11th place, where we've got Budweiser hung out to dry. Let's see how that goes, but a good start by our front row.
Cars working themselves down the back straight away for the first time. Everyone through turn number 1 and 2 without any issues. To give you an update on Matt Lambertson, he has not taken the green flag. So it looks like he will take no further part in this race and be classified in that 32nd position. But as the cars work themselves through corner number 4, it is Tim Holgate, your new race leader, as Paquin is going to slot in behind as they work themselves. Lap number 1, it is going to be Tim Holgate leading the way as the cars come back down into turn number 1, Paul.
And it's a good start by Tim Holgate there. And, well, it looks like Miguel Angel Martinez almost caught the wall coming out of 1 there. Just went a little bit wide. We're going to see this a lot as these guys are trying to sort out how these cars are going to react in traffic. A lot of aerodynamic work in these cars. And you get up close to the back of another car, and you're going to find the car's going to start washing out. These guys are, again, as we said earlier, kind of testing things out a little bit here.
So, that is lap 2 going to be in the books, and Tim Holgate has led both of these laps at the Yard of Bricks. But your top 10 cars are pretty much line astern right now. You have to go back to about P12, P13 on the racetrack before you see any real action. And this is what we were talking about, Aaron. For the guys at the rear of the field especially, this is a test session, but it's a test session which is working well for them. They're getting a couple of green laps in early, and that means they know how that balance of the car is going to work from cold tyres to getting some heat in them, and that is critically important.
Indeed, and we've seen lots of patience so far. This is a long race, and nobody wants to be the first yellow. Nobody wants to be the final, the last place finisher in this race. Lots of patience right now. And right now, you just want to log laps, learn what your car is going to do, and maybe through strategy gain positions. But right now, as we do have a battle for the 11th spot, and we've got Chad Peterson to the inside, going to drift up, going to be contact. Oh, so close.
that was battling with, I believe that is number 12 machine there, Chad Peterson battling with Budweiser. They are going to get themselves down the back straightaway. There's a little bit of two wide racing behind them as well. I believe Sam Bonza is involved in that mix, so they all work themselves back down towards turn number 3 one more time. Is the number 27 car indeed of Sam Bonza right in the middle of that, but we stay green for the time being. No real dramas as the cars complete lap number 4. It is still Tim Holgate leading the way. Second place, John Paquin. Third place, Ron Mayer Jr. Ryan Norton moves himself up into the 4th position, and Ryan Norton, of course, is looking to get himself potentially into that mix and that battle for the race lead. We have got a bit of separation though between those first 3 cars, Paul, and those second 3 cars, and that was caused by Norton getting himself there past past Ricardo Denuzzo. When you're going too wide, you're always going to be slower when running in the draft.
Oh, right, exactly. And and 2 cars into the corner, you both have to give the respect, which means you got to slow down. You cannot run a normal line at full speed in this car without striking the car outside. And I wanted to mention this Chad Peterson situation, trying to get around Bonzit. Really talks to the experience and discipline of the drivers of these cars. They could have pushed the issue to try and get past, or rather, Budweiser could have pushed the issue to try and get past Chad Peterson. Did the smart thing, kind of held his line, checked up, let Chad Peterson gather the car back up, and everyone's going on with no harm, no foul. And you can see now that there's a bit of a gap because of that lift.
And they work themselves back down towards the north end of the racetrack once again. Having a look at John Paquin actually, and he does look as though he is content right now, just lying in line with Holgate. You see that he pulls that car right to the outside, and he's actually lifting just a little bit down that front straightaway, not intending to make a pass at all, Aaron. And we're going to see that change over the course of the race. Some people would want to get a move on. Some people would like to see how their cars work in clean air. I wouldn't be surprised to see perhaps Paquin and Ryan Norton and Ron Mayer Jr. By the way, Norton is now up into the 3rd place on the racetrack, potentially try and get past Tim Holgate just to see how that car is going to handle in clean air.
Yeah, speaking of on the move, Ryan Norton just made a blistering pass on the straightaway. He seems to be a little bit more straightaway speed than anybody else, and Norton is the type of driver, we talk about people that fuel save, which maybe that's what Paquin's doing right now. Look at this, Ryan Norton gets to the inside. He may go 2 for 1 here. Is he going to take the lead into one? No. Going to think better of that, but he might have been able, 10 laps ago, I think he would have gone for that, but Norton is on the move.
And let's not forget, it was Brody Kostecki, one of Ryan Norton's teammates, who won the Indy 500 last year. So Broken Arrow's got a very good record at this racetrack. And you saw also a lot of respect there between John Paquin allowing Norton to take the corner. And I know there's no love lost between those 2 drivers, but in the early going, they just want to get themselves in a position where they can fight for the win. And again, you notice then that Paquin, he just fell back a little bit. Potentially now he's going to see how quickly he can close. Will Ryan Norton try and go for the race lead this time by? It looks as though he's not going to do so. Tim Holgate's got some good speed around that front straightaway. Norton will stay in line, and they will remain 1 and 2 for the time being. But now down to the inside, here comes Ron Mayer Jr. trying to make the pass on John Paquin. Wasn't able to do so. That high line is working very well for that P1 racing car of John Paquin. And now again, Ron Mayer Jr. is under attack from Ricardo Denuzzo. And Denuzzo is going to go down to the inside, and he will complete that pass before corner number 3. That's one thing you've got to pay attention to, Paul. You've got to set up your passes here. This is actually one of the most complicated tracks to make a pass, and you've got to set it up almost a lap in advance.
You do, and Ron Meyer there looks like when he tried to get into Paquin wouldn't let him through, and he was forced to lift to hold that bottom line and just got freight trained. It takes so much time to gather that speed back up. I mean, it's almost like winding a flywheel up. If you lift off for a little bit, or God forbid have to hit your brakes, it takes so much time to get back up to the race speed, and you just get freight trained by the guys behind you. And that's what we saw with Ron Meyer when he attempted to make that pass on Paquin and wasn't able to hold the speed in turn 1. And the other thing too is when you're behind somebody, the car reacts very differently from when you cut around to the inside. So it's possible that with Ron Meyer, what happened with him when he got into the inside, he suddenly found his car in clean air, and the car may have gone from neutral to loose, and he had to lift to try and keep the car under him.
Of course, drivers have got a number of in-car tools they can use throughout the course of this race to attempt to change the balance whilst in the race car. They've got their anti-roll bars, both front and rear. Little lever on the left-hand side of the cars. We'll see if we can get an onboard shot of that. But they've also got the weight jacker as well, which raises or lowers the right rear of the car over the course of this event. So these guys, they can do changes in the cars, but also, Aaron, we might see some drivers be a bit risky. Once you get into the latter pit stops, take that wing off, lower the tire pressures a little bit, and go for glory.
Yeah, one thing I do think very interesting, and with the old car, really didn't see this, but with the DW12, typically if you were on the outside in turn 1, you had to give the position away. John Paquin was so strong when Ron Meyer got on the inside. That's something. John has a really strong car on the outside, and that's something we don't typically see. And that's one thing, if he knew he was getting past, he could have made those adjustments going into the corner to better allow him to hold that outside line, because typically that's not a line that you really can come out the other side with any bit of speed.
Great racing at the rear end of the top 10 between Daniel Opensky and Miguel Angel Martinez. Opensky getting himself past Miguel. But then you have a look at the guy in that number 11 position, and it is the number 1 machine of Ray Alfala, who has got himself up from 19th place on the grid, now running in that 11th spot on the racetrack. He's had a great start to this race, and he's still got 3 cars really ahead of him who we can make short work with, especially at the speed that he has at this stage of the race, Paul.
Absolutely, and we're seeing the pace starting to pick up here now. It looks like Tim Holgate and Ryan Norton have got a little bit of a breakaway going on now, and they're starting to run speeds in the 39.9s now.
Alfala to the outside. There was a bottleneck in front of him. Ray Alfala just made an outside pass in turn 4. Incredible.
And that's the sort of thing that we saw Young O do back in the ISOWC Indy 500. And Alfala's going to go for another 1-2 positions there down in corner number 1. Ray Alfala is on the move, and he's now got himself a little bit of clean air. What a move was that, Aaron? I don't think I've ever seen someone take 3 cars in the space of 1 straightaway.
Wow, I think that was 4 cars in a total of 2 turns that all started off by a car getting loose out of 3. But my goodness, who says he can't pass on the outside at Indianapolis? Ray Alfala just busted that myth.
And I think Alfala has just shown why drivers from the NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Series earn their respect at being one of the top levels of sim racing in the world.
Whoa.
Alfala taking a number of positions. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
Chad Peterson almost lost it in turn 4. There's been a big, with the move from Ray Alfala.
Oh, trouble!
It's Peterson. Peterson in trouble.
Peterson and the number 24 car behind him as well. Now, will they keep it off the racetrack, or will we stay caution? We're going to be free wide. All the cars are swarming to avoid. I'm not quite sure. We've got another spinner there, but I believe we stay green at this point in time. Mike Perry loose there on the edge of the racetrack, and that was a huge mess, but somehow we were able to stay green there. I don't have any idea how. Chad Peterson got himself loose, and that really started with him down on the exit of corner number 1. I have no idea how he stayed green, and it was with Peterson getting together there. Thomas Fredericks just hitting him in the rear after Peterson had to check up himself. Those 2 drivers then got spun around. I believe there's some damage to Fredericks' car. He's going to be out of the race. Peterson's got a little bit of damage as well. But Mike Perry, as all of those cars bottled up, he got himself loose. We somehow, Aaron, stayed green, as the replay is now up on your screen.
Lots of heads-up driving there. Drivers were slowing down for the incident, and the fact that more cars weren't involved, that really could have taken out the latter third of the field. Some great driving there. And Mike Perry was all the way down to the inside wall out of turn 2 and kept it going and might have picked up a spot or 2. And just, wow, what a sequence of events.
Crazy moments, but we stay green. 17 laps of this race scored complete. Tim Holgate is your leader. Ryan Norton is in 2nd position. Ricardo Denuzzo is now up into 3rd. The gap between P2 and P3 is 0.8 of a second. So, as Paul was saying just a couple of moments ago, there is being a little bit of a breakaway, but now Denuzzo is ahead of Paquin. It does look as though that he's beginning to slowly reel this front 2 in again. Having a look at the gap towards the rear of the field, however, that really has gone to all over the place. There's gaps here, but then some very close racing, and that was caused by that big pack-up that we saw on your replay just a couple of moments ago. That incident starting in turn number 1 between Thomas Fredericks and Chad Peterson. Now working ourselves on lap number 18, and we are having a green field to this race so far, Aaron. I'm going to probably curse it by saying that, but yesterday's race went about 150 laps green. Today's race, it does look as though in the early going, these drivers have been keeping it clean, and that means that we're only about 15 laps away from potential green flag pit stops.
Yeah, and the incident with Peterson, Peterson had gotten loose a couple times, and that's how Ray Alfala made one of the best passes I think we've ever seen in IndyCar racing anywhere. Incredible. but that might have been potentially not staying ahead of the in-car adjustments. That car was getting very twitchy in the corners, slowing up, and as the fuel gets all the way down, this is when, if a driver isn't ahead of the curve on their adjustments, this is where we could see a single car incident bring out the yellow.
Having a look through the field, let's check in with our in-race reporter who's currently running himself in the 12th position. And Jonathan Goki's having an interesting start to this race so far. So he right now is running in at that 12th position, but good start by our in-race reporter.
Yeah, Goki's had a good race so far. He started way back in 28th, up to now 12th, so a big improvement there, which shows qualifying and racing, two different things. So to move that much in 20 laps, he has been absolutely on the move. And I'm sure when we get to the latter quarter of this race, we will be mentioning him in the top 5 or higher.
It is getting hot out front as Ricardo Danuso has been able to get himself up to the rear of Ryan Norton. He's brought John Paquin along with him. Now, are there any other drivers? Yes, there are. Ron Mayer Jr. is in that mix, and Joshua Chin isn't far behind either, to be fair, right now. Will Ryan Norton all of a sudden decide that it's time for him to get some clean air in that number 2 broken aero machine? Because he was putting away with Tim Holgate about 5-6 laps to go, but ever since then, Paul, Ricardo Danuso, ever since he got himself past John Paquin, has been able to close up to the rear of these guys. And I think now, if Norton or Danuso want to go to the front, this is their perfect opportunity.
It could, but now we're going to start looking at already. I mean, we're not even we're not even 30 laps into this race yet. We haven't gotten to the first pit stop. These guys are already starting to think about strategy. There's a lot of flexibility with this car that was not afforded with the older car, and part of that is fuel mapping. And so you can control the amount of fuel that goes into the engine as a function of trying to save fuel and use less on the track. Of course, you use that, you pay a speed penalty for that. But already these guys are starting to think towards the latter part of the race. The less fuel you burn, the less fuel you have to take in pit stops, the shorter your pit stops. And every second in the pits is an eternity on the track. So already these guys are starting to think about it, and that's part of the reason why it's such an advantage to be trailing behind a guy. You're looking at Ryan Norton just kind of behind Holgate. It looks like he might be poking his nose out, maybe to try and cool the car off. But these guys may be content to go nose to tail here, at least for the time being, and try and save some gas.
And pit entry here is one of the most crazy, difficult things in all of the sim racing. Slowing your car down from over 220 miles an hour down to pit road speed, which is 55 miles an hour for this event. It's one of the most difficult things you can do. And Aaron, these drivers will likely get spread out quite a bit, but also, if you can save yourselves a couple of laps of fuel and a caution comes out during that sequence of green flag pit stops, you're golden.
You're golden, and we are watching the cars. We're watching the cars up front, and really, we don't really see cars make a effort to make a pass until right before the pit cycle. That's when I think we'll see maybe Norton go for the lead, because you really want to be in the lead coming onto pit road. That's what we've seen historically. Cars make the pass for the lead as we get to the end of the fuel cycle.
And Will, if I can interject, we've had an incident on track. Andrew King hit the wall into turn 1 and spun into the infield. No yellow, but it looks like Andrew King's day may be done.
Yeah, our first turn 1 victim, the Dogecoin car there of Andrew King, is out of the race. Replay coming up on your screen, and it's just that thing, turn number 1, when you're running it in dirty air, as Andrew King was, potentially didn't realise he had to move himself through those in-car tools a little bit, caught a little bit of a gust with the centre of the corner. That car just brushed up, and there he was, his game was done. I have to say that the car behind him, Kerry Bettenhausen, very lucky to get through that one, because that could have been easily a 2-car incident there, Paul.
Absolutely, and it tells you how sensitive these cars are. And Andrew made the same entry of that corner for the last 22 laps, and lap 21 laps, and 22nd lap is when suddenly the car didn't react the same way, and he wasn't able to bring it back in, brush the wall, and that's it.
So then, 1/8 distance is complete in this race. 25 laps is in the books here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Run for your top 10. It's Tim Holgate from Ryan Norton, Ricardo Denuzzo, John Paquin, Ron Mayer Jr. They are your top 5. Joshua Chin, Brandon Trace, Ray Alfaro, Martin Miller, Miguel Angel Martinez. They round out your top 10. So far, we have got ourselves 28 cars scored on the lead lap. 1 car, 1 lap down. That is Mike Owen. Then 3 cars out of the race. Andrew King, Thomas Fredericks, and Matt Lambertson did not take the green flag here today. As now, these cars work themselves back down past those yard of bricks. Things are getting settled down a little bit, but a good battle going on right now between Martin Miller, Ray Alfaro, and Miguel Angel Martinez, battling for P8, 9, and 10. Behind them, Jonathan Goke moving himself up into the 11th place on the racetrack.
And Will, from the pits, Mike Owen. Appears Mike Owen took some damage at some point on the track and is having heat issues now. Engine's been overheating, so he's made now, looks like at least one stop to try and address that situation. But Mike Owen having some serious engine issues here that might come back to plague him later.
Yeah, and Mike Owen right now, as I say, he scored 1 lap down in this event. He did indeed make a 8.9 second pit stop. He is back out and away onto the racetrack, but looks as though his day was going to be a very long one in this event if it's going to continue that way. In fact, he's just being put a lap down by the number 15 machine there. And that is Derek Murray just putting himself a lap down. So Mike Owen's day not going the way it wants to go for him right now.
Ben Peterson has blown up.
Oh, so Peterson, we saw him earlier, let's not forget. He was the driver involved in that incident with Thomas Fredericks, and he was the driver who did get a little bit of damage, I saw, just on the exit of turn number 1. He's brought his car down to pit road, no caution. Oh, now the caution's out. Our first caution of the day, and it looks as though we have got Lloyd Busquets out of the wreck, and in turn number 2, indeed, our first caution day, a single car incident, the number 22 car of Loic Busquets there, getting it loose on the exit of turn number 1, hitting the wall, hitting it in turn number 2. He couldn't get it down there onto the apron. Our first caution of the day, Aaron, right on the edge of a green flag cycle of pit stops.
And
wow, I think I might have called that as we got near the end of the cycle. If you don't stay up on your adjustments, the single car incident, and that's exactly what happened. So all that strategy that was going on, fuel saving, now not going to be as much. But when we do pit, Tim Holgate's going to have to take more fuel than Ryan Norton, because Ryan Norton has been just staying back there, just conserving.
And this is the same exact situation we just saw with Andrew King as befallen Loic. The car just got a little bit pushy going into the turn, and this is what we're going to see towards the end of fuel runs. Tire management much more important in this car than it was in the previous car. You will pay a price over time for abusing the tires, and if you have a car that pushes too much or is loose too much, you're going to put a lot more strain on those on the front or rear tire. And that car will start going away from you towards the end of a run. I think that's what we're starting to see here.
Pit road is going to be open this time by. We'll talk about the way cars get loose and tight over the course of a run in just one moment's time, because pit road is open. We expect to see everyone down on pit road this time by. Here comes Tim Holgate, and he is going to bring pretty much the entire field with him. Let's see if anyone stays out. I really don't think we will, with it being this close. We get our first car, that's Mike Owen. Of course, he has scored a lap down, so he won't be able to come on pit road anyway. But that race is now going to be between Tim Holgate, Ryan Norton, Ricardo Denuzzo, and John Paquin. I expect all of these guys, they're all going to take 4 fresh tyres, and they are going to top up with virtual race fuel as well, as we now work ourselves on lap number 30. And here comes Tim Holgate nicely into his pit box. No issues for him. Having a look at the other guys in the top 5. No issues for them coming into their pit stops. Of course, Paquin has got a bit of an advantage. Being on pole position, he's got the best line out. It looks as though it's going to be very close, and it is going to be very mighty close there. Tim Holgate just beating Ryan Norton out of pit road there. And then behind is going to be Ricardo Denuzzo, John Paquin, Ron Mayer Jr., Joshua Chin, Brandon Trost, Ray Alfaro, Jonathan Goke, and Miguel Angel Martinez. They are your top 10 coming out of pit road. Mighty, mighty close there, Aaron. That battle for the race lead.
And that's one thing we can take note of later. The fuel saved by Ryan Norton wasn't that much. I was expecting a little bit more there of a difference, with Norton being able to have a slightly faster stop, but that wasn't the case. So first in, first out for Holgate.
But of course, let's not forget that these cars have a fuel tank worth, I'm just going to confirm, 18.5 gallons. Now, you put in fuel at the rate of a gallon every half a second. So, in other words, 2 gallons per second overall. That means that if Ryan Norton saved 1 gallon, that works out to be about 2 laps of fuel. But on a pit stop, it's not going to mean as much. He needs that race to go green if he's going to go into that fuel compensation mode in order to make that one work really for him. And we do need some green laps before fuel strategy becomes a major player, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is something these guys have to think about now rather than later, because again, as I mentioned before, every second you spend in the pit is a second that's eaten up on the track. And at 230 miles an hour, that is an awfully long distance. So every half second counts. So if you can save yourself a couple of gallons over the course of the 200 miles, it translates to a significant portion of space on the track.
And the car's going to complete their 31st tour around the circuit. We are going to potentially get a chat with our in-race support in just one moment's time. Of course, Jonathan Guy having himself a very good start to this race so far. He's now down in the 17th position, qualified in the 28th position, now is running up inside the top 10. What a crazy start to this race, John.
This has been outstanding. Woo!
So, been able to get yourself from the rear of the field, kind of towards the front of it. Take us through the motions.
There's a couple of wrecks back there that I was lucky enough to miss. Working with Derek again, just like last night, just trying to stay calm, long race. But you could tell these last lap motorsports machines definitely have the speed and the handling to get through traffic. A lot of people are pushing. We're just carving them up. So I'm looking for a good top 5 finish. Hopefully I can keep up with Alfala and Norton and all them, and hopefully just hold on to the train, get through these pit stops, and go to the end.
Aaron had a question.
Oh, I've got a question. So crazy moments there. There were the incident in turn 1. How close were you to any of those incidents? It looked really hectic from up here.
The incident on the short sheet between 1 and 2 was extremely close. Luckily, I think both those cars, I think Chad was involved, washed to the inside, and I just kept it floored, and I was able to keep the momentum and pass a couple of people and just started marching forward. So hopefully my good luck continues from last night all the way through today.
Well, those lights are off on the pace car, so we will let you get back to it. But Coke will talk to you a little bit later on, our in-race reporter for today. Driving for Last Lap Motorsports, currently running himself in the 9th position on the racetrack. As I say, those lights are off on top of the pace car, and it is Tim Holgate classified as your race leader from Norton, Denuso, Paquin, and then Ron Mayer Jr. They are your top 5. Pace car about 15 car lengths ahead right now of Tim Holgate, but it looks as though that Holgate is getting ready to absolutely blast the doors of this racetrack once again. It will make its journey back down towards pit road, waiting for Tim Holgate to bring back up the pace, get ourselves back to green flag racing here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we are back to green.
And a great jump by Holgate there. He managed to make a good space in front of Ryan Norton, and Ricardo behind him, another probably 4 or 5 car lengths between those 3 cars. So real discipline, just try and spread the start out here a little bit. It looks like everybody's just kind of right in line. Nobody really pushing the issue, so a good clean start here.
Very clean start, and Mike Owen did take the wave around, so he's back on the lead lap. As Norton's going to go for the lead at turn 3, and no challenge.
He really got that one down on the inside into the 3rd corner of the racetrack, and that was set up all the way down the back straightaway. Got himself a huge tow. Ryan Norton to the point now in that broken aero car, and potentially he thought he wanted to check, see how his car's going to work. Will Tim Holgate go back down to the inside? No, he won't. So now Holgate's the one. He's thinking potentially it'd be the chance for me to save a bit of fuel. Potentially it's a chance for him also to figure out how his car works in dirty air. He didn't go for the quick pass there, and that is rather symbolic because Holgate actually brushed up rather high through corner number 2, Aaron.
Very high. He hit that wake of air and just drifted out. And then when he came out of the corner, he had a lot of steering input, and he just about lost the rear. And there again, just a little bit, you can see the front end just slide ever so slightly. For Holgate now, he's going to have to get on those adjustments because that car really isn't liking the dirty air. Although this is his first time in it this race, but definitely a visible push there.
Yeah, definitely what Aaron said. Tim Holgate, this is his first experience at speed behind a car now. You can see he is definitely struggling with that car. So you can imagine he is very active on the in-car controls right now to try and sort that out, and maybe contemplating possibly making a change if he's going to have to stay behind a car. Meanwhile, John Goke has passed Ray Afali. He's now in 8th.
Pass for 4th place right now, and that is between Ron Mayer Jr. down to the inside, completing that pass there. So the Fast Daddy machine gets the job done over the P1 racing machine of John Paquin. Will Paquin try and come back down to the inside there on that run down to turn number 1? He's going to get the look. Will he stay in line though? It does look as though he is going to stay in line for the time being as they work themselves back down towards that first corner. And you've got Joshua Chin behind him right there in that mix as well. And this is a battle for 4th, 5th and 6th places on the racetrack right now. The action is hotting up, and you've also got Brandon Trace there running in the 7th position right behind, and John Goke in 8th, Ray Afali in 9th. Miguel Angel Martinez is just out of the picture there. He's running in that 10th spot. To give you an update, we do now again have 26 cars scored on the lead lap. However, Daniel Lipensky is running rather slow right now. He's classified in 25th, and then you've got Mike Owen. He is classified in the 26th position. We are aware that he has potentially got some heating issues on his car, however. And Holgate does look as though he's finally got a bit of a balance on that race car. Still about a groove high, though, through turn number 1 from where he really wants to be, Paul.
Yeah, I don't know that he was expecting the car to react quite this way, so he's probably talking with his crew chief right now at the moment. But it does look like he's backed off of Norton for a little bit here, so his thoughts of possibly making a quick pass on Norton, maybe he's replanning that strategy a little bit, maybe just kind of ride back there and just do some fuel conserving at this point. I don't know if... well, right now it looks like the pace has certainly picked up. The price of poker is going up here. 39,874 Ryan Norton that last lap. So they're definitely working very quick laps now. As a matter of comparison, at the very start of the race, we were at 40.1, 40.2. Oh, I'm sorry, he's at 40.1 right now. So we're back to that pace again. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong line here. 40.1 last lap for Ryan Norton. Hello. Hey, it's been a while, guys. Come on. And so, yeah, it just looks like right now maybe Holgate's content to sit back there, maybe try and conserve a little bit of fuel, conserve a little bit of tires, and just kind of see how it sorts out. They're getting a bit of a breakaway right now, so this might be a good plan.
Yeah, two things, Will. One, we do have one car, one lap down. Rob Ungolniks, he passed several cars before the line, so he picked up a black flag. But for Holgate now, I have to think if he retakes the lead by any means, he isn't just going to lay over like he did last time. That car is not handling well behind, as we've seen other people. So if he retakes the lead, expect him to defend it a lot more.
Oh, and this is actually something as well that all of the crew chiefs, the spotters, all of these drivers will be paying very close attention to. How are cars working when they're outside of their comfort zone? What can you do to them to make their lives a bit more difficult? And I'm sure all of the Broken Arrow crew chiefs right now are thinking, actually, we need to be leading this race from the front because that's the best place for us to be. And in many ways, this race is a little bit like the Tour de France, Paul. You are going to have pacers on the racetrack. You've got a powerful P12 right now, and that was with Sam Bontek. And actually, I'm getting word that James Winbanks has just fallen back a little bit on the racetrack as well. But this... I'm
sorry, it looks like Martin Miller is actually having a lot of trouble with his car right now. In fact,
we go yellow.
We go yellow for our second time here today, and that is Mike Perry in the number 29 Broken Arrow car. And this was working himself out of corner number 2, and again, another casualty of that turn 1 wall, getting himself high, slamming it into the inside wall there, and that car just came back out onto the racetrack and actually did hit Mike Owens for the second day today. Mike Owens been involved in an incident, however, he does carry on for the time being. We'll see if he's got any further damage. Mike Perry, our second caution of the day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But to finish up my thought here, Paul, very quickly, this race is a bit like the Tour de France. You are going to have people pacing the field at some point, and there will come a stage, I'd say about lap 140, lap 50, when all of a sudden people's going to stop pacing, and they're just going to drive their own race, and rather than playing conservatively, they're going to get aggressive.
Yes, a bit of a Peloton thing going on here. If I can break out my really poorly bad French. That Mike Perry accident we just looked at, that was perplexing because unlike the other incidents we've seen like that where the cars were in traffic, Perry had a lot of clear air in front of him. So odd that the car just sort of gave up, and it really did look like it just didn't turn in that corner. So I don't know if he missed an adjustment, if something went away on the car, and he was just struggling with it. But what I was saying before, right before we went to yellow, and this is probably a great thing for Martin Miller, he really had a heck of a time in that car. The car just, I don't know if he hit the wall or if anything, but that car certainly turned evil on him. And he was getting run down in an awful hurry. He lost, 5 positions, I believe, in the space of 2 laps.
Wow, Will, we've done about 10 laps. This is where if somebody's in the second half of the fields, will we see a split strategy here? We're about to find out.
I think we will. And you see there, Ryan Norton just dancing it along the line. Is he going to commit? Is he not going to commit? He's going to have to make that turn eventually. And you see, look at that. One driver's been forced in. Third place
fifth,
there.
Sixth, seventh.
So we have got a split strategy.
Yes, we do. And a lot more cars came in than stayed out. I count right now 4 cars that stayed out.
Yeah, and I would expect potentially 1 or 2 drivers from the rear of the field to have come in to try and get some track position. But it really is Ryan Norton, Tim Holgate, Joshua Chin, and Ray Alfano who have stayed out. Everyone else has come down pit road. So let's have a look at this battle for the race out of pit road. The drivers we've got to have a look at is John Paquin, Ron Mayer Jr., Ricardo Denuzzo. Denuzzo should come out of this first, but no, it's not actually.
Wow.
It looks like Denuzzo might have taken some new tyres there, and that allowed Ron Mayer Jr. and John Paquin to each get out ahead of him. So a change around there, but these guys now are going to be a little bit further down the pecking order than what we saw earlier. Now, what you would have noticed as well is that it's single file restarts. And because of single file restarts, drivers who have scored a lap down don't get sent to the rear of the field until the last 10 laps of the race. So even though you've only got 3 or 4 cars who stayed out, what it actually means is over the course of this event, you will get more and more cars between people on the lead lap. And that's going to make things even more confusing and potentially even more dangerous, Aaron.
Oh, especially if the lap cars, which Rob Ungelnix does have a fast car, which really everybody in this top split has a fast car. But the problem is if somebody that is a lap down, maybe they have a little bit of damage, sometimes they'll try to get out of the way. And when they do, they actually get in the way. So hopefully if we get to maybe a restart with 15, 20 to go, you know, coming to the green, if that lap car comes into the pits or just pulls into the pits to go to the tail, that might prevent a potentially a catastrophic incident from happening. I am interested to see how Ray Alfala's car is going to be, how much power he has. He's now going to be in 4th, and on this restart, we've seen him charge. So will that attacking motion still stay, and will he go up there to maybe get 3rd, 2nd, and contend for the race lead?
And Will, a little news from the pits here. Jonathan Goke, speeding in the pits.
So that's going to drop him all the way to the rear of the field, and that's going to undo all of the great workers he has had at the start of this race. So I was just noting, actually, you've got 5 different teams represented in the top 5. Of course, you've got Ryan Norton leading the way in that Broken Arrow car. 2nd place, you've got Tim Holgate for Panther Offline Racing. 3rd place, you've got Joshua Chin for Banshee Autosport. And then, of course, you've got Ray Alfala, who is running in that 4th place as well. Those lights are off on the pace car, and that's one of the benefits, though, Paul, of single file restarts. These cautions are a little bit quicker, more green flag racing for us.
They certainly are, and we've seen a lot of discipline with these guys, and the starts have been very clean. I think that's a testament to the professionalism these guys exhibit. Of course, it's also early. We're only 42 laps into this race. So, we'll revisit that when we get into the second half of the race, and we'll see how much they push the issue. But, we were talking a little bit about the tires, if I could. Some of these guys went in, didn't take tires. These 4 guys in the front, of course, they're on a fuel stint. But for the cars that went to the pits, if any of them didn't get tires, we're going to get awfully close to the point of the drop-off here. And the tires don't just gradually drop off. You get to a point where you hit a precipice with these things, and suddenly they're not there anymore. And there's no real defined area of when that's going to happen when you're in the car. It just suddenly does, and when it goes away quick. So it'll be interesting to see for cars that don't take tires.
I was actually thinking that might have been one of the issues for Mike Perry. He might not have actually taken tires on that first pit stop. We might get some confirmation of that a little bit later on, but that pace car is working itself right now down towards turn number 3 and 4 once again. So Ryan Norton for Broken Arrow leading, Tim Holgate for Panther Offline in 2nd, Joshua Chin for Banshee Auto Sport in third, and then Ray Alfana for Slip Angle Motorsports are in fourth. They're your top four, and then P1 Racing's John Paquin round out your top five. Pace car's going to make that journey down towards pit road once again with 42 laps of this event scored complete, and Ryan Norton is going to be bringing the field to his first green flag here today, and that green flag is going to come out right now, and actually he's holding it off a little bit. Now the green flag's out. Back to green flag racing here at IMS, and those cars come back down towards turn 1. Chin already all over the rear there of Tim Holgate, sorry, the lap car even, as they come down towards turn 1. But Alfano's one, actually, say, all over the rear of Joshua Chin as they work themselves through the short straight and back down onto that rear straightaway. And it does look as though that Holgate got a very good run out of turn 2. Will he try and go for that race lead? No, he doesn't. And I'm a little bit surprised there, Paul, that he didn't go for that race lead.
Yeah, I think Holgate maybe talking about a little bit about a strategy here. Maybe he feels that Ryan Norton may be a little bit faster than him.
We've got Brandon Trost, who's going too wide. There might have been a little bit of contact there.
And wing damage.
That was with the number 15 car. And it does look as though that Trost just kind of cut in a little bit too early there as he worked himself out of corner number 3. And he was running with Derek Murray. And as they came out of turn number 3, some front wing damage to Brandon Trost. Now that's really going to hurt that car. You see that James Winbank's now down to his inside. Brandon Trost is being hung out to dry. Running that outside line pull when you've got some damage to your car really makes things very difficult for you. And he doesn't know how that car's going to behave over the course of this entire fuel run now.
And that's really the big thing, is when you have damage like that and you know it, going into the next corner, it really is, how is this car going to react? What do I do? How do I push it? Is it going to, you're a test pilot. You're completely at the mercy of physics at that point. You have no idea what the car is going to do. As it looks like Bonzit has taken Martinez now for, looks like, 9th place. And yeah, a little bit about that thing with Swinbanks. When he was on the inside, he had to slow up a little bit, and when he slows up, the aerodynamics change. You're not generating as much downforce. And if you have a car set up so it generates more downforce to the rear than the front, when you slow down, all of that starts going away in unequal proportions, and the car gets very, very squirrely.
Bonset was able to keep that place there. You saw it was 2-wide racing between himself and Miguel Angel Martinez in what is the battle for the last place inside the top 10. Bonset has that one.
Miguel into the wall.
P1 racing car. Miguel Angel Martinez, he's going to roll right there. Will he be able to keep this race green? He'll have to find a way of getting that car back down towards pit road. But Miguel Angel Martinez, another victim there of turn 1. You see he's very slow on the racetrack, and this all started as he was trying to get himself through turn 1 after being passed, didn't go through those tools, running high in the groove, clipped the wall, running the wall there through turn 2. He will have to bring that car down towards pit road this time, but he's going to have to hope that he's going to have the way to get down. He's not going to be able to do it. Now, Miguel Angel Martinez could actually cause a caution here without meaning to do so. He might have to just try and run that access road, cut through those cones in turn 1, but it looks like he's going to be okay. There's no cars really immediately behind him, so he will be able to come onto pit road this time by. But Miguel Angel Martinez, our latest victim of turn 1, Aaron.
Wow, just got a little bit outside, and this is one of the things with this car. The old chassis, when you turn into turn 1, you instantly knew if you were on the line towards the wall. This car, it seems, by the time you realize you're in trouble, it's too late. You can lift, you can jam the brakes, both of those futile. There is nothing you can do once you get into that trajectory towards the wall. It's too late, and I think that's what we're seeing here. The old car, you had a little bit more wiggle room in being able to crank the wheel and avoid the wall. This car, not so much, and we are seeing very experienced drivers just conk the wall out of turn 1.
So, your top 5, it is Norton, Holgate, Chin, Alfana, and then rounding out your top 5 is John Paquin right now. But Paul, go on.
Hang on, speaking of wiggle, Brandon Trost, I'm watching the last couple of laps. That car is certainly, oddly enough, with the front wing damage, the car has gone loose on him. Not sure if it's a product of him messing around with the in-car settings to try and find a balance, or if the actual damage itself is what's causing the car to go loose. But that being said, even with the damage, he just turned to 39.9, so the speed is still up on that car. So hopefully he can get a caution, just get the nose cone replaced, and be right back in the game. Doesn't appear any other damage to the car.
I think for him, it's lucky that it is the left side of the front wing. We saw Montoya at Pocono get that left side wing damage and didn't hurt him. For Brandon Trost, it is the left side of the front wing, so really the side that isn't as used as much as the right front. So for Brandon, I think that's where he very fortunate.
You say that actually it didn't hurt him, it actually probably helped him a little bit. And it's one of those things that all of these designers always put little bits in the car, when they get taken off, and you see it in Formula 1 so much as well. All of a sudden the guy's looking, how are you going faster? And the guys in the wind tunnel just holding their heads in shame. But meanwhile, that number 1 car of Ray Alfaro is still bringing a little bit of pressure right now on Joshua Chin. Got himself a 4-car breakaway. John Paquin is falling back a little bit, and actually Paquin does seem to be that. He doesn't seem to be able to close up to guys. He needs some help to close up. I'm wondering if he just laid in that car with downforce in the early going. Is now you see the fast lady car of Ron Mayer Jr. going down to his inside, move himself up into the 5th position. It does seem to be maybe Paquin's just put himself a bit too much downforce in that car.
Well, they've got 10 laps more of fuel also too, so that might be playing into it. These guys are a little bit heavier than these front 4.
And they also had the lap car of Rob Ungelnieks between them to help do that separation, which with 10 laps of fuel, I would have thought they would have been able to hang in the draft, but they may have lost too much time. Remember, with the single file restarts, it's much easier to get strung out, especially if you have to pass another car that isn't on the lead lap.
But we've now got ourselves past the first quarter of this race. So 52 laps will be complete as they come past the yard of bricks this time by. We still have a total of 24 cars scored on the lead lap. The last one of them at the moment, right now actually, is Dano Brookins in that number 11 machine. We talked about Mike Owen a little bit earlier on. His car seems to be holding on for the time being, involving 2 incidents in this race. He was complaining about overheating earlier on, but that seems to be working for him right now without too many issues, as Ricardo Denuzzo working himself there past John Paquin, moving himself up into the 6th place on the racetrack. And Denuzzo, you have to say, has got some very good speed in his car at this stage of the race, Paul.
Absolutely, looking very good indeed. And I've been watching Paquin here, and I think, he's getting passed by a couple of guys. I think this is intentional. John certainly has the speed to be up at the front. He is certainly looking at some manner of strategy at this point, is Paquin. And so I think what he's probably doing is either work the map back or he's just working the throttle, try and save a little bit of gas, follow behind these guys. Looks like Ron Meyer is certainly on a different strategy because he's breaking away and he's trying to chase down that front pack. But it just seems to me like we're already looking at strategy playing out, and we're about a quarter of the way through the race.
We've got a bit of a battle behind you going on as well on the racetrack. And in fact, we're having a look down the field as well. You've got Martin Miller and Brown and Trace. They are battling for P11 and 12 from the racetrack. They are very close together. But side-by-side racing, P17, P18 right now. Budweiser on the outside. Brendan Lichtenberg on the inside. Mighty close there. Lichtenberg has to check up. He got a little bit too far below that white line. Just clipped the curb, Aaron. And you don't want to touch the curb. Get as close to it as possible, never touch it.
And Kerry Bettenhausen is just loving that battle in front of him as he's going to go get a 2-for-1 special down the back straightaway and gain 2 spots just like that. And that's the thing, if you run side by side, it takes a whole lap to get your momentum up. And if you're behind that battle, you can go in, swoop up via spoiler and take 2 spots. But now he may lose one of those as, wow, Budweiser on the outside. What a run he got out of 4.
And now these guys all working together. They're packing up the guys behind them. And Lichtenberg almost lost it that last lap trying to keep the inside. This side-by-side battle is not going to be very fast for any of these guys. And you can see that in addition to Lichtenberg, Olszewski, Music, and Owen have all caught back up. And this is good news for Music. He needs all the space he can get at this point.
Yeah, and of course, let's not forget Rick Music. He started this race from pit road after qualifying in the 2nd position. Did not take the grid. And that battle for the race lead has parted up all of a sudden. And here is Ray Alfaro to the point. What a great move by him, getting himself past Ryan Norton. And that was down in turn number 1, moving himself to the race lead. So the 2-time NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series champion, powered by Amazon.com, leads this race. And now Ryan Norton down to 2nd place. Ray Alfaro, what a drive he has had so far on lap number 56.
If I'm not mistaken, each lap over the past 3 laps, Alfala picked off a position. He passed Chin, next lap he got Holgate, next lap he got Norton. So Alfala, lots of power now. Will Norton want to fight back? Probably too early for that, but as we get down to the end of this, I think we may have a lead change every time going into turn 1, but I don't know. Look at the distance Alfala has put on Norton.
Crazy stuff there for Ray Alfala leading this race right now. And let's not forget, although he is primarily a NASCAR driver, he did run in this event in 2010, the race which was won by Justin Dalson that day. He came home in the 3rd position, and now I'm intrigued to see whether Tim Holgate will actually still ride in line, or whether or not he'll try and get past Norton and see whether he can now go to the front to lead a couple of laps, as lap number 57 will be completed. Alfala is our 4th different leader, technically, of the day. All of the times in the top 3 have led laps in this event. Joshua Chin, Ron Mayer Jr., they haven't led laps, neither has Ricardo Denuzzo, and of course, John Paquin did lead the field to the green flag here. He's not officially confirmed as leading a lap. However, as you said earlier, you can't discount John Paquin in that number 7 P1 racing car. Having a little bit further back right now, and it does seem to be that the field has settled down into a rhythm once again. And we haven't had the crazy restarts that we're used to of years previous, Paul. But it does seem to be that everyone still just keeping their noses clean. But the big battles are, I think, when people want to get themselves a little bit of clean air on the racetrack and just get away from these big packs of drivers.
Yeah, whoa, look out. It looks like Chin almost bought it there in turn 1, just about 4 or 5 inches away from the wall. And you can see he's already losing space. He had to back off in order to...
Dano Brookins is off the pace as well.
He had stopped in the pits, and he actually stopped at the pit exit for a complete lap, so something right there. I don't think anything's wrong with the car. He just came into the pits, and I don't know.
He's well off the pace. He's doing 178 miles an hour through turn number 3, and cars just breezing past him. Just having a look to see if there's anyone behind him. Kerry Bettenhausen is the guy who's going to come up behind him with a huge head of steam. And here comes Dano Brookins onto pit road once again. So potentially an issue for him, what we didn't see on our screens, that might be terminal. Dano Brookins potentially could be out of the race. Hugely disappointing for him. That's going to relegate us down to just 23 cars on the lead lap, 24 cars running in this event. Let's see whether or not Dano Brookins is going to get himself another stop, or whether this is going to be game over. And he is going to get himself another stop there, Paul. So he might try and see whether he can get this car back out.
I'm trying to look at Daniel's car. It looks like he's got some right side pad damage. At some point, he must have hit something, and so he may be trying to get that fixed or sort it out in some way. But yeah, definitely back in the pits now. There's something that's gone certainly pear-shaped on that car, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
And an interesting thing, actually, he stopped behind his pit stop, and then he came into his pit stop about 5 seconds later. So Mahampsey should try to figure out exactly what he needs to get done to that car. We'll come back to that one in just a little bit. It is still Alfara leading out front, though, with Norton in second and Holgate running himself in that 3rd place. Field has settled down behind them, but you've got a good battle between Paquin, Murray, and Swimbanks right now. P7, P8, P9, Aaron.
Yeah, and they are all right now. I think they're just logging laps. Really, we have 2 races going on. We have the 4 cars up front, which have 10 less laps of fuel, which I think their stop's going to be coming up relatively shortly. And then you have Ron Meyer 5th, and the cars behind them are sort of like the front 4, just logging laps, just getting closer to the end, and really letting Ron Meyer lead the way.
So they've done 33 laps on this stint as it is right now. Let's not forget, about 4 of them are under caution. So, well, realistically, they're about 3, maybe 4 laps away from pitting under green here. And you will probably lose as Norton goes down to the inside over Ray Alfara. Takes that race lead away. Will Holgate be able to capitalize? The answer is going to be no to that one. But we expect these guys are within about 2 to 3 laps now. And also, let's not forget, they're jostling for position. They want to have the easiest ride on pit road. And here comes Holgate down to the inside of Ray Alfara. Will he try and get Norton? No, he won't. But we've seen a number of 2-for-1 specials here today, Paul.
We have a little bit of information here. Brendan Trost caught the wall in lap 62, caught the turn 1 wall. Did terminal damage to that car, and it's out now.
Norton into the pits.
Right, Norton, the first of these guys. Does he make it down to 55 miles an hour? We will find out Ryan Norton pitting under green here, and we have seen some big heart rates in this race before. Just having a look, it does look as though he did get himself down to 55 miles an hour. The cones here are rather late, and yes, he did clearly get himself down to the pit road speed. Joshua Chin is going to come onto pit road this time by. We expect Ray Alfaro potentially to come in as well, as will Tim Holgate. So this is where this race is really going to get interesting with two completely different strategies. Let's not forget, actually, that the guys who pitted under that loud caution are only a little bit further back. 10-second pit stop for Ryan Norton. Oh, Chin hits the wall. Chin hits the wall coming into pit road there. And I think actually that was all caused between him trying not to run over Ray Alfaro as he came onto pit road. But Joshua Chin's got a little bit of damage. That could well be terminal for him, Paul.
If he bent up that right front suspension, it's game over for Chin. Which remain to be seen what the pit crew does with this car, but that could be serious complications for his race if that's true.
Oh man.
I'm having a look. There is some damage to the right-hand side of that car. Let's see. He is back out onto the racetrack, Chloe. Chin's going to get ahead of him. And he will be very close, actually. They're going to be side by side coming out of pit road almost there. Holgate there being a bit slow getting back onto the gas, though. That helped all of those drivers up. Chin with a bit of a wiggle. I think that would have cost him about a second, maybe a second and a half. With Holgate, just looks so that pit limited didn't come off there, Aaron.
Yeah, well, another thing, there is that bump that Holgate, I think in another race I've watched, caught a bump, and if you are in the gas there, you spin, so he didn't want to do that. And let's see if Chin has any damage to the inside. Oh,
that is brave. Knowing the fact that you've just covered the wall on pit road and going down to the inside of a car the moment you come out of pit road, potentially. I think I understand what Chin did there. He almost wanted to get himself into clean air to see how that car is going to run by itself, but Holgate's not going to allow it to happen. He's going to come back down to the inside. You see also our father's going to come back down to the inside as well. Nice and close, and they both just about stay out of that turn one wall, but that gives Tim Holgate about a 6-car length breathing room. Very close racing. Our new race leader, by the way, is Ron Mayer Jr. in that number 6 Fast Steady Racing car, our 5th leader of the day, Paul.
Well, I think this answers the question of whether or not Chin's got any damage in that car. That car certainly seems to be handling properly for him now, so no harm, no foul for Chin. Got away with that, which is remarkable considering how delicate these cars can be. But, Ron Meyer now, in the lead, the front four of Holgate, Chin, Afella, and Norton, they really needed a pit stop or a yellow in order for that to work, and now it could come out to burn them if it ends up that they we'll have to wait and see what happens. Well, hopefully, go ahead.
Derek Murray just got second, but going back to that inside pass that Chin had when he came out of the pits, I hope Holgate's crew didn't let him know, hey, the car on your inside had just hit the wall coming into the pits. Good luck. I hope he didn't know that. That would have been a very scary moment there.
And that might be the reason why Holgate then went back down to the inside in turn number 1. The last thing you want is to be behind a car who may or may not hit the wall through turn number 1. So a number of storylines developing there. Just to let you know, by the way, but those 4 drivers did stay on the lead lap. So that's important. If we do get a caution now, they'll actually cycle all the way back through to the front of the field, because all the other guys who will pit are still on the same lap. They'll fall behind him. Ron Mayer Jr. is your race leader, but Derek Murray is just about 2 car lengths back in that battle for the race lead. Ricardo Denusa about a further 5 car lengths back. Does look as though Derek Murray is very close to setting up a pass as they work themselves out of corner number 4. You are going to have a huge tow down this front straightaway right now, because you have got Ray Alfaro. In fact, they are catching Alfaro, Norton and co. And here comes now Murray to the point, and he's going to get that inside line down into turn number 1. They're only about 10 car lengths behind this gaggle of 4 cars right now, Aaron.
And
Alfaro! Is that Alfaro? No,
Chin.
that's Joshua Chin.
No,
that's Joshua Chin. Joshua Chin, who gets loose there through turn number 2. I think that is his race done. And he didn't hit the wall. Did he hit the wall in turn number 1? Getting a look at the replay. Yeah, that was a big clubber. Big clubber.
Almost caught Alfalfa. Almost hooked him.
Wow.
That's a great drive by Chin to keep that car from hitting anyone else after deranging the right rear suspension. You could see the car visibly crabbing. And to be able to keep that car off the wall, get it onto the caution lane, and not hit anybody is just a testament to how much car control that took.
And I was about to make this point, Will. It's actually unfortunate for Norton and company that the leaders are behind them, because now our race leader is actually getting a tow. So not only is he on lighter fuel, but now he's getting a speed bonus from the draft. So Derek Murray, when he makes his pit stop, he may be able to actually maintain the lead because not only is he lighter right now, he's getting the draft from those cars.
Yeah, and he set himself a 39.7, 39.592 that last time by. Let's see what he does as Ron Mayer Jr. is onto pit road. So we'll come back to him in just one moment's time. In fact, for Murray, he's saving a little bit of fuel right now as well. Let's not forget that. We will go back over to have a look at Ron Mayer Jr. as he is onto pit road in that number 6 car. So a full sequence of green flag pit stops is starting, and here comes Ron Mayer Jr. down onto pit road. 4 fresh tyres for him. Going to top up with virtual race fuel as well, as we're working ourselves right now on lap number 72 in this event. We do expect to see the likes of Derek Murray and co coming to pit road with the next 3 to 4 laps, and now Murray is going to put Ray Alfala a lap down here as they come down into turn number 1 once again. But it won't be long until Murray's on pit road, so that won't really hurt that driver's swim banks, and also Martin Miller, Sam Bonzet, John Porzek, Jonathan Goke, Michael Chin, Dan Brewer, all onto pit road right now, Aaron.
And
Dan Brewer almost nailed the attenuator coming into the pits. He almost lost it right there.
Ray Alfala living dangerously because if the yellow comes out right now, he will be trapped behind the leader. He will get the wave around, but he'll have to start at the tail end, so he is hoping for no yellow and Murray to pit this time.
Harry Bettenhausen also onto pit road. Pit road is a very busy place right now, working our first full sequence of green flag pit stops.
Leader in.
Derek Murray onto pit road. John Paquin also onto pit road. And is also Ricardo Danuso. So a full sequence of green flag pit stops coming in right now. Harry Bettenhausen a little bit slow actually coming out of pit road. I'm wondering if he had a bit of an issue coming in or coming out. It looks like he just came in from a very weird angle. Had to be a little bit slow coming out of pit road. But all these guys are in. Let's have a look at Derek Murray then. Ricardo Danuso is technically classified as your race leader for the time being. But here comes Derek Murray out of pit road. And he is going to get himself back out onto the racetrack. And it's actually Mike Owen right now leading the way in that number 19 car. Of course, this is a guy who's been involved in some way, shape or form in the walls throughout this race, Paul. But he's leading. He might actually lead a lap here. Our 6th different leader of this event.
Remarkable considering the luck he's had in this race. You know, early damage to the radiators they appear to have sorted out in some manner, and then getting involved again in another incident. Here he comes into the pits right now.
Yeah, so 55 miles an hour for him, Aaron.
And Norton does come out and does pass Murray, so I believe when the cycle's through, Norton will be in the lead, but Derek Murray is right there. So this split strategy, if Derek now can stay in the draft of Holgate, remember there's 10 laps fuel difference. If Murray can do that, he actually could be in a very good position.
Mike Cohen, actually, I think he just brushed the wall as he slid down into a stop there. He was very close to the left-hand side. He did actually just brush the wall with the left-hand side of that car. So that thing is getting beat up all over the place now, Paul.
Indeed. Looks like Alfala just went past Murray here. But yeah, you don't want to push the issue with these cars in terms of bouncing off the wall. They are not very sturdy in being tapped or abused in any sort of way. It's extremely strong car, but the suspension is not very tolerant to that kind of nonsense. So you want to be very, very careful about what you touch with this thing.
And you have to wonder, Will, going back to Joshua Chin, wonder if his contact in turn 1 had anything to do with maybe the stability of the car was just hindered maybe a few percentage wise from hitting the wall in the pits, if they had anything to do with him hitting the wall in turn 1, because that was a very uncharacteristic mistake by Joshua Chin.
Incredibly uncharacteristic as we work ourselves right now on lap number 76 of 200 here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500, and your race leader once again is Ryan Norton. However, he has got Tim Holgate right behind him. 3rd place right now is Ray Alfala, and a caution is out.
Randy Freeman.
Our 3rd time of the day, Randy Freeman in the number 20 car, and get this, guess what? He is down in turn number 1. So
loose,
another
actually.
victim. Yeah, I'm just having a look.
Wow.
He was down to the inside. He might have overcompensated actually for his. He just overcompensated on his weight jacket, got loose, brushed up the racetrack, actually hit one of the P1 racing cars, and that was Rick Music. Then he might have actually collided with another car as well. That was Rob Ungerlinks there. He hit, and that is our 3rd caution of the day here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We don't expect many pit stops, so what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step aside for just one moment, bring you a quick message from our friends over at iRacing, then we'll be right back with continuing coverage of this, the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. We'll be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 here on PSR TV and iRacing Live. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the next round of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com will take place on the 29th of July here from the Brickyard. 100 laps here on PSR TV and MRN, the Motor Racing Network. Also, the next time the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series rolls into town, that will be in 2 weeks' time, and that will be at the Okayama International Circuit, August 2nd on Racebot TV, also on iRacing Live. A couple of drivers made pit stops there under that caution, not too many, however, Aaron.
Yeah, we actually, we only had 4 cars stay out. James Swinbanks, now our race leader, Ricardo Denuzzo, Martin Miller, and Bud Weiser are only drivers to stay out. Everybody else came in, so once again, strategy turns on a dime, and we have a completely different picture.
Well, you know, those 3 cars had just made stops on laps 72 and 73. So, certainly this could be a fortunate turn of events for those 4 guys up front, working that strategy. So it remains to be seen now if they have the speed.
Our 7th different leader is James Swinbanks in that number 25 Aerox racing car. Now, actually, point to note, James Swinbanks actually won the rookie edition of the 2012 iRacing.com Indianapolis 500, looking to become one of these drivers to now win the big race itself here on Saturday. Ricardo Denuzzo in 2nd place, Martin Miller in 3rd, Bud Weiser in 4th, Ryan Norton in 5th. 21 cars out of the 32 who started still scored on the lead up. In fact, actually only 31 cars started this race because Matt Lambertson did not take the green flag. And also our 7th different leader of this event as well, Paul, as those lights are out on the pace car, going back to green flag racing, with 79 laps scored complete. We're going to get an interview in a minute as well with Mike Perry once we go back to green flag racing, get a word, figure out what happened to him after his incident. But Paul, in the meanwhile, long green flag pit stops has really been the sequence of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I was saying this was just a fortunate turn of events for the the Aerox team driver of James Swinbanks and Ricardo Denuzzo, and of course the Banshee driver of Martin Miller. All three of these guys, a little bit maybe down on race speed, but again, as certainly indicated in these races, raw speed does not always win the day in these kind of long events.
And that pace car working itself once again through turn number 4. So we're going to go back to green flag racing after what is going to be another caution here, our third caution of the day here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. James Swinbanks will bring the field back to green flag racing. Split strategies once again. That pace car is going to come in, and we are going to go back to green flag racing. And James Swinbanks holding on a little bit. Now it brings up the pace. Ricardo Denuzzo has to pull back a little bit there. Martin Miller, a good start by him. Budweiser in 4th. Ryan Norton going to come down to that inside, and he's going to take that position immediately there from Budweiser as they come down into turn number 1. Will our father train make the move as well? He's not quite going to be close enough through turn number 2 there, Aaron.
Yes, and he's going to get it this time. Budweiser goes way up the hill, just barely keeps it off the wall, but for Alfala, he had to push. He can't lose touch with Ryan Norton, and for Norton now, about maybe 8 car lengths to Martin Miller, but for Norton now, kind of a interesting situation. How hard does he push? The cars in front do have less fuel, but not by that much. So Swinbanks leads, Denuzzo second, Miller third, but we know Denuzzo has a really fast car.
He is incredibly fast. Go on, Paul.
No, it does look like the answer is kind of already being answered here. Ryan Norton is closing rapidly on the back of Martin Miller's car. So it looks like he is interested in closing that gap and getting in with that group. And, of course, Budweiser trying to follow along with them. So, again, once he gets up to that group, it'll remain to be seen what he exactly wants to do about it, whether he wants to hold back and just ride along, or he's going to try and make a pass here.
Yep, and let's say we still got a total of 21 cars scored on the lead lap. We're going to have a chat with one of those drivers who is unfortunately out of the race a little bit earlier on. He's going to be classified in the 27th position overall in that number 29 broken aero machine. Mike Perry, this didn't go your way here today.
No. I was hoping for a good race, but it just didn't work out. Inexperience with the car, being my debut in the car, and flipping around with the ARBs and the weight jacker, trying to get it to feel right, and just got caught behind the wheel.
But didn't happen, of course. These races only happen once a year. How disappointing is it to having to watch the final 120 laps of this race, but also the happiness in seeing some of your teammates doing so well in this event?
It kills me that I'm not in there, and helping and supporting the team. Actually, all 4 wheels on the ground. But I'm actively, in the team speak, giving them times and trying to talk them down from their anxiety. The guys are doing great. I've got a feeling we're going to do good things. Just wait and see what plays out.
Well, Mike Perry having a difficult race, coming home in the 27th place overall. Number of drivers having to sit and watch this one from the sidelines in the early go. Thanks for talking to us, Mike.
Thanks, Will.
James Swinbanks continues to lead the way right now. Denuzzo in second. John Paquin was able to make a pass, moving himself up into the 9th position just a moment ago over Budweiser. And go on.
And Ray Alfala actually made a pass for 4th on Ryan Norton. Ryan Norton did not make it easy. And currently Alfala is inching away from Norton at the moment. So Alfala's car really strong. Norton did not just let him by. That pass was in turn 3 about 2 or 3 laps ago.
What we didn't talk about, Paul, over that course of green flag pit stops was the fact that we had it spread out really over 3 to 4 laps in total. You have got a car right now on pit road, and that is Kerry Bettenhausen in that number 21 car. So he is making a pit stop. But we did notice how, those green flag pit stops were spread out quite a bit on what is a very long racetrack. So these fuel mixture settings, and of course the right foot as well, and downforce levels, it means that we're getting very wide variations on that pit window here today.
We're seeing differences of as much as 3, 4, even sometimes 5 laps, just on managing fuel and tires, and that plays a very important role towards the end of the race. when you consider length of time spent in the pit road or just speed on the track because you're lighter. So even now, we're not even halfway through the race yet, and already you've got to start thinking about strategy here. And how are you going to run the second half of the race?
And Denuso being able to get himself ahead of James Winbanks as well, moving himself up onto the point. That is going to be our 8th different leader of the day. Ricardo Denuso, once he comes past the yard of bricks. James Winbanks now down into the 2nd place. Also our 10th. Oh, different lead change. Did Denuso just hit the wall there coming out of turn number 4? Was that just the shadows there, Aaron?
It was very close. I think he was close, and he did react to keep it off. I do believe he kept it off, but very close there, as taking the lead at Indy sometimes creates just a little bit of nerves. And right there again, oh, he is on the limit out of turn 2.
That was almost a Thomas Schechter moment for him there out of turn number 4.
and behind them, Murray looked to the inside of Ryan Norton, and Ryan Norton slammed the door and said, So potential race control may want to look at that. That was, wow, Murray is fighting hard there on Norton. Let's see what happens this time. He threw one too many of those moves, and the car behind is not going to yield.
The issue is, though, for Murray, is that these cars naturally run generally to the outside as they work themselves down the front straightaway. That means that as soon as you duck down to the inside, you lose all of that draft air, that slipstream pull. And you saw it there with Murray. He clearly can be faster in the draft. As soon as he steps out of it, you just basically hit a brick wall as far as things concerned about being able to make that pass.
It quite literally is like turning into a wall of air, and the car just drags once you hit that fresh air, and it will, if you don't have enough momentum to start the pass, then you're not going to have enough to carry it through. And it looks like he's going to try and take another peak here, but just not enough speed to try and make that move and get in there.
Good observation. Well, as soon as he goes to the inside, it is truly just an absolute wall of air, as Murray is on the limit. And I think Norton's getting a little frustrated right now. I really think he's getting a little frustrated. Alfalfa is inching away still. And Norton, who in a 500-miler at Pocono several weeks ago, Will, that we commentated, he just walked away from everybody. And you have to think he was hoping for a repeat of that here today.
And he was very good at the start of this race. However, things always change. And let's not forget, Alfano has got the draft of 3 cars ahead of Martin Miller, James Winbanks, and Ricardo Denuso. And we've seen Alfano before in this race literally pick them off one by one by one. And we're also talking, remember earlier on in the RS.com World Championship Grand Prix Series race, Aaron, we were talking about the fact that you're either attacking or you're defending. Right now, Norton is having to defend, and that means that you're naturally going to be a little bit slower than when you're always looking forward to those cars ahead and deliberately hitting your marks to get yourself into an overtaking position. That time, however, Norton got a great run out of corner number 4.
Yeah, and now Alfala's going to have Martin Miller in front of him, so now Alfala's going to have to play the attack, and that can sometimes slow you down trying to time that pass right. We've seen time and time again, as I think Alfala's going to he might have missed time that there. I don't know if he's going to do it, which if Norton gets a run out of 2, he may, no, not going to be close enough, but you have to time your attack right. If you have to lift for that car in front of you, what was going to be an overtake is quickly going to be turned into defense. And for Norton right now, yeah, I think if he wasn't being pressured so much, the worst thing you can do as a driver is start looking behind you, because then you don't pay attention to what's in front of you. You play defense more than offense, lap times drop, and you make an unforced error.
Your top 6 drivers right now within one, in fact now your top 7 drivers are classified within 1 second of each other. You've got 8 cars within 1.5 seconds of your race leader. Leading that second pack right now is Jonathan Goke from John Paquin, and that second pack is falling off now by about 3 seconds off of this lead group. Again though, they're not really going to be too concerned with it by that stage right now, and it does seem to be that Goke and Paquin, Weiser, Bonset, they're all just happy to run line astern. And Alfano is going to get that job done over Martin Miller out of 4. And here comes Ryan Norton, 3 wide almost there. Norton going to go around the outside of Ray Alfano there in that run down to turn, and 1's going to make that move before the corner.
And that's experience there by Alfala, wanting no part of side-by-side right there in turn 1. So just lift it off, let Norton go. I'm sure he was seeing Norton behind him in his mirror, knowing Norton was on the attack, so he just let him go.
You know, it looked like Alfala was surprised. He kind of made an evasive move to get inside Mark Miller. I think Mark Miller may have ran into a little bit of trouble there because, you know, I really think that Alfala didn't intend to make that move, but he did it more out of survival.
We are getting word that actually Martin Miller might have hit the wall there through turn number 3 just a little bit, and that's what caused his shoe stacking up moment. Alfala is now trying to get himself back down towards Ryan Norton, see whether he can make the pass over him. As it stands right now, they continue to be at line of sight. We'll get confirmation though on Martin Miller because he's now falling behind Ron Mayer Jr. and Tim Holgate as well, and in fact he's got into no man's land, and he's now in a position that Jonathan Goke isn't too far away to capitalise on this, take advantage and use that draft to pull that entire group back into contention, Aaron.
Yeah, 2 points here. One, Mike Owen's day, I think, may be coming to an end. His car is on pit road, so race he will most certainly want to forget. But for Jonathan Goke, I think he restarted well back in the field. He has moved up. He has a very strong car. Remember, he got that black flag for speeding on pit road. So Goke having a very strong showing here. He restarted when we went green, maybe 15th, 16th.
By the way, to give you an update on Mike Owen, he just so high through the groove there in turn number 1. Lap number 59. He doesn't even make it to the bit of the wall that everyone's hit. He's already almost on 2 wheels. In fact, he is on 2 wheels through the centre of turn number 1. His day is done. We are now down to 19 cars in this event. 18 cars scored on the lead lap. Derek Murray is looking down to the inside right now over Ray Alfala, and he's going to get that job done. Alfala almost hits the rear of him as they come out of corner number 1 there. Wow. Murray moves up in position, and Murray gets loose there through turn number 2, and that was almost 2 huge moments, especially at how stacked this field is. Alfala's going to look back down to the inside, and you got the number 17 car, Tim Holgate, putting his nose in as well. He didn't want to make it 3 wide, but that was a very, very scary moment for both of those drivers.
That's the last thing you want, to get passed by a car and then see that car get sideways. That's where you get the aggression button and go, buddy, I want back around you. And that's exactly what Alfala did. And next time Murray gets up there, I think Alfala is going to defend because he is not going to want to see that again. 2 close calls in 2 corners.
And the guy who's really having a heart attack right now, Ron Meyer, watching that all unfold in front of him, he'd be the first guy to really get nailed if that all went down.
And Murray actually got himself a little bit loose for the central turn of 1 again, so I'm wondering if actually he's getting to the point of that drop-off from those tyres that you were talking about, Paul, earlier on. And we have talked to a number of drivers that actually this car gets looser over the course of the run. Naturally, the fuel burns off, but at the same time, these tyres, they get worn out, and then all of a sudden, you hit that cliff. And you've got to carry on using those in-car tools over the course of the run, and also kind of drive proactively, knowing the fact that the car's going to get looser, and just turn that car a little bit less through the centre of the corner.
And not only that, he had just made a pass, so his weight jacker was probably for the dirty air. In the air, your car gets tight. He made the pass, and there was a big gap to the cars in front of him, so that also he may have not stayed ahead of the curve there and gone back down for clean air.
And you know, Will, what you're talking about the tires, tire management starts from lap 1. Choices you make on how you drive the car early on in the fuel stint will affect how the tires will hold on through the course of a run. If you decide you're going to start abusing the tires early and you're not on top of the adjustments to try and manage the heat and wear on these tires, you're going to, towards the end of a run, you're really going to be paying the price. And I think some of these guys are pushing it really hard at the start of the stint, and the car's just going away from them towards the end. Looks like Goke is going to try and make a look here at Meyer.
And that's going to be the battle for the 7th place on the racetrack, and he's going to get that one plate. In fact,
sorry, not
Martin
Miller.
Miller.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Goke moves himself up into 8th position. Martin Miller goes back down into the 9th spot on the racetrack. We still got ourselves a total of 18 cars scored on the lead lap for Ricardo Denuzzo. He is leading as we are getting closer and closer to the halfway point of that race. In fact, that's going to happen in about 30 seconds time, as now we are working ourselves down the back straightaway once again. Ricardo Denuzzo, James Winbanks in 2nd, Ryan Norton in 3rd, Ray Alfala in 4th, and Derek Murray rounds out your top 5. Now, you don't get any points for leading at the halfway stage of a race, but what it shows is that you're going to be in a situation that you've got most of the car the way you want it to be, setting yourself up for that second half of the race. Right now, Ricardo Denuzzo, James Swinbanks, they are your 1-2 drivers. And Aaron, as we are now at the halfway point of this race, 250 miles in the books, we said earlier that Denuzzo and Swinbanks didn't have much speed when they were in the pack. They've actually not been that slow once they got themselves to the front of the track.
Exactly, and Norton and Alfala have been trying to get up there, just haven't been able to. So Denuzzo, we talked about him at about the quarter race distance, that he had a very strong car, and it is showing. So this race, I think he will have a say in who wins this, but at this moment in time, Will, I think we have about 10 drivers. Anybody in the top 10 can win this race right now.
Ryan Norton is very close to the rear of James Swinbanks right now in that battle for the second position on the racetrack. As we've got Martin Miller again battling with Jonathan Gogan side by side racing. Martin Miller goes back past Jonathan Gogan. These two are battling for what is 8th place on the racetrack. Now these guys are only about 2 seconds off the race lead. I am surprised though, Paul, why they're not just trying to get themselves back into that lead group, because every time they fight, we know they're about 2 to 3 tenths a lap slower than when they're running a line astern.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like a very good idea at this point for those guys to start fighting over position, 8 and 9, because they've got to catch up to this front pack. Looks like Alfala's going to take a look at Miller, or at Norton here. Decides better of it, falls back in line. Really, at this point, Norton just needs to realize that these front cars are going to be pitting here in about 4 or 5 laps. They've got about 5 laps less fuel than Norton and Alfala. So really, at this point, the best thing for these guys to do, Norton, Alfala, and it looks like Holgate's going to make a move now on Murray. But just kind of run line astern, try and get away from these guys. But Goke is showing very exceptional speed at this point, about half a tenth faster per lap on average than the front runners. So it remains to be seen if they can keep this line astern and catch up with this group.
To give you a couple of statistics about the first half of the race, we completed it in just a tad over 1 hour and 20 minutes. 3 cautions for a total of 9 laps, a total of 10 lead changes, and now working ourselves on lap number 104, 8 different leaders as well. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome to PSR TV and iRacing Live's coverage of the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 from Speedway, Indiana. Will Vinson along with Aaron Likens and Paul Jenkins here, and the track temperature here today, it's about 78 degrees Fahrenheit, northerly wind of 2 miles an hour. We'll talk about that in just one moment's time. Race relative humidity is 55%, and Aaron, to talk about that wind, northerly wind means one thing: turn 1 is going to be difficult. We've seen that today, at least 5 drivers involved in an incident in turn 1.
Yeah, you get that tailwind going into turn 1, and then what was speeding you up, as you turn against it, that wind pushes toward the side of the car, and it just pushes that car further and further and further towards that turn 1 wall, and that is where all the action has been today. Turn 1, and we got the front 2 coming into the pits.
Ricardo Denuzzo and James Swinbanks coming down onto pit road. So it's going to be Ryan Norton back to the point here with 105 laps of this event scored complete. And now let's see what is going to happen with Swinbanks. What's going to happen with Ricardo Denuzzo? Were they both able to get it down to pit road speed? I believe they were able to. We'll get confirmation of that in just one moment's time. There's going to be 4 fresh tyres. They're each going to top up with virtual race fuel as well to get themselves going for another 35 or so laps in this event. And these guys were at the rear of the field. Ricardo Denuzzo just coming out of his pit box right now, and he's going to be about the same distance from Swinbanks as when he came in. Mind that bump once you see Denuzzo there just hitting that bump as he came out of pit road. And Paul, we talked about that earlier. You hit that at the wrong place at high revs, your face is pretty much over. You got to spin that car into the grass.
Yeah, you have to be very, very delicate all the way around here, but especially when you come across that bump. You hit that bump the wrong way, and you're just going to spin the car right around. And so it's really kind of a delicate balance to try and figure out how you're going to get that. And they did not get out of the pits without losing a lap, so this could have serious implications. You get a yellow in the next couple of laps.
And they are on a full fuel load, but one thing that could help them is if with that full fuel, if they can hang in the draft, they'll be okay.
And we've seen as well that some of these drivers really have, had to be careful coming onto pit road. We've got another car coming out of pit road. That's Budweiser coming out of pit road. We have seen this race go green pretty much so far for the majority of it. And that draft that you were talking about, Aaron, if they can get themselves in that really is going to help them overall. As the guys ahead of them, they're on very low tank. That means they're going to be turning up faster lap times. If these guys can stick with them, it's going to make their lives so much better. And also, it means that they can save a little bit more fuel as well. If this race turns into a fuel mileage race, that's going to be golden for them. And at this point, you're counting backwards now.
Yeah, and for Denuzzo, he was able to stay out. He is further behind than I think he would have liked to have been. Just outside he's just getting a whiff of the draft. But talking about fuel mileage, it always seems that it comes down to Indy. We talk about who's going to make it to the end. Nobody wants the Robbie Gordon experience of having to pit coming to the white flag as he did in 1999.
Holgate around Goke for third.
Also, you've got Michael Chin, Daniel Opensky on pit road. So the number 28 car there of Daniel Opensky and the number 32 machine there of Joshua Chin. Not Joshua Chin, even Michael Chin each onto pit road. And now also Jonathan Goke coming onto pit road as well.
Accident on pit road.
Car. So we've got a wreck on pit road as well. Let's get confirmation of who that one is. Is that... let's get confirmation of who that is.
John Porzic.
John Porzic. That's the second year in a row he's had a mishap on pit road.
And he got hit. I think he got hit by Dan Brewer. He got rear-ended by Dan Brewer on the way into the pits. So it could be some heavy damage to that car. That
was a Takuma Sama at the time moment from Pocono last year, all over again. John Porzic, a very long pit stop for him.
Yeah.
His race is done, and that's the second year in a row pit road has hurt John Porzic's race.
He would have been okay had he being hit. Alfala.
Alfala may have sped.
That was close.
Let's have a look. There's going to be a bit of a Brad Keselowski coming in here. Very, very close. He's just made it. And he overtook Ryan Norton coming onto pit road as well. Exceptional stuff. That yellow cone, though, does need to get itself a Twitter account after that.
At the yellow cone, absolutely. But my goodness, what a pass by Alfala. You don't typically say pass
now rolling out.
You don't very often say out-braking maneuver at Indy.
No, but the two-time NASCAR champion, will he be able to beat him out of pit road? And you see,
he does.
Now he comes back out onto the racetrack, beating Ryan Norton out, and it's currently Tim Holgate classified as your race leader, but he's now onto pit road, completing another cycle of green flag pit stops here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with 111 laps now scored complete in this event. So once it all comes back together, it's likely to be Araya Fana who will be back to the race lead as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Denuzzo, who was our leader before that, is in turn 3 now. Alfala in the short chute, so that pitting early did not pay off.
Nope, and it's actually caused a bit more issues for them as well, because they're really in some traffic, these two drivers. Denuzzo actually is going to now go down to the inside and will complete the pass there over Ron Mayer Jr., moving himself back up into 6th position. James Swinbanks is actually lost out really in that one because he was right behind Denuzzo in the early going. He's now actually about second and a half behind Denuzzo and Ron Mayer Jr., even though those two have just been running side by side.
And
that pit stop really didn't work out. Go on.
Tim Holgate. I think Tim Holgate had an exceptional in-out because Holgate is in front of Alfala. So I think Holgate may inherit the lead here. What a stop.
Yeah, wow. Tim Holgate had a fantastic stop and ended up about 4 or 5 car lengths ahead of Ray Alfala here, which I think that deficit is going to get closed up, but an outstanding stop by Holgate to retain the lead.
That's an interesting one, and it's our 12th different lead change here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. So now, to run through your top 10, now it's calmed down just a little bit. Holgate from Alfala, from Norton, from Goat, from Murray, Denuzzo, Mayer Jr., Swinbanks, Paquin and Lichtenberg. They are your top 10. We're into the second half of this race. Now, everyone, by my records, still potentially going to have to make 3 more pit stops. Just thinking about it. Yeah, they're going to have to make 3 more pit stops, Paul. And they're going to be right on the edge of a fuel number to try and go to 2. And if you wanted to try and do 2, you start saving now. Because you can gain about 2-3 laps each time. You can just about make it.
And that's what we were talking about right before the green flag dropped is, you know, your fuel strategy at the end of the race starts at the start of the race. You know, it doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense to start thinking about fuel towards the end of the race. But quite honestly, the decisions you make at the beginning of the race will have implications at the end, and we're going to see that here. Guys that can make gas throughout the race are, you're going to see them in the lead. You might not be the fastest guys on the track. It might be wallowing around the middle of the pack the whole day long. We don't want to talk anything about them, but you better believe in the last 50 laps of that race, they're going to suddenly become a thing. And it looks like Alfala is right all over Tim Holgate now.
And Will,
also, go on.
If you do start saving and you do that strategy, you have to commit. How many times have we seen drivers go to a strategy, then they get involved in a battle, then they go back to fuel saving, and then they end up short? If you commit to the strategy, you have to commit and you have to stick to it for it to work.
And I'm just thinking actually back to Tony Kanaan at the IndyCar Pocono 500. It's the perfect example. You can't wishy-washy around this. You've got to be on the money from the get-go. So,
Alfala to the inside, and we got a lead change.
Yep, and it's going to be our 13th different lead change of the day. Alfala going past Tim Holgate there to the race lead, and Alfala's just been exceptional in this race. But Holgate, Norton, and Goke Danuso, in fact, all of this top 10 have been absolutely picture perfect. Yes, they've each had a couple of moments, but this race has had a green field to it and great heads-up driving by all of these drivers.
It has, and again, speaks to the discipline of these guys. And it was a big concern of mine. We talked about at the beginning of the race. These guys have spent so much time on qualifying. How are the race setups going to be? How are these guys going to be able to sort out the car during race? And I think part of that is the fact that we had the aborted start a couple of months ago where we weren't able to get the race in. It's given these guys almost 2 months worth of work to do on these cars. And I think it's really paying off in the quality of racing we're seeing here today. It looks like Goke's got a run on Norton. He might give him a try right here into 3.
Yeah, and let's have a look at that number 5 machine. He will complete that pass down into turn number 3. So move the last lap motorsports driver up into the 3rd position. Move Ryan Norton down into the 4th place in. At the same time, Aaron, we've got, I still think, 18 cars who can win this race. Well, 17, 18 cars who can each win this race, because we saw this under that last sequence of pit stops and that last sequence of green flag running, that if you can get out front and be in that lead group, actually, you've got just as much of a chance as anyone. This field is really balanced here today.
Absolutely balanced. I think the fastest car on the track is Jonathan Goke. About 35 laps ago, he was 6 seconds off the lead, and he has reeled that in on speed alone. So he's up to 3rd, and he will be contending for a win here today. But with fuel, don't count anybody out. If a Brendan Lichtenberg, a Dan Brewer, a Sam Bosna, a Bud Weiser, if they can conserve fuel and be the only person to do a 2-stopper instead of a 3-stopper, they've got themselves a victory.
So then, with 118 laps scored complete, it's time to go through the field here in the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500, and we start with your race leader, Ray Alfala. Now, we forget about Ray Alfala in this race today. He qualified in the 19th place pole, but able to get himself to the front early, and he's been there since pretty much lap 30 in this event.
A very disciplined drive, and it certainly speaks to the experience of a Ray Alfala. Of course, NASCAR champion, and now putting on a great show here in the IndyCar. But a very disciplined, very controlled drive by Ray Alfala finds him on the point.
And then in 2nd place right now is going to be Tim Holgate, Aaron, running in that 2nd position. He has led laps here today. He's been fast in a straight line. And actually, I've got to say, that he's possibly one of the fastest guys running out front in a straight line. If you're on the last couple of laps and you've got to get past him, it could be tricky.
It could be tricky indeed. One thing we've seen, that Holgate's car likes to be out front, doesn't like to be in the middle. So when it comes to the end, he's going to be clamoring to be that first car, because that car, he has the speed. I don't know if he has the handling to use it in the turns. His car really gets pushy when in dirty air.
Running in 3rd place right now is Jonathan Goke. Jonathan Goke started in the 28th position in this event. Another driver who's moved his way through the field. Mixture of strategy, this, that, and the other. And actually, let's not forget as well, Paul, he had himself a speeding penalty to contend with. He's back up there in the mix.
John Goke worked from the front to the back to the front. A spirited drive here. Of course, your Friday night champion. And let's not forget, Jonathan Goke won that race on fuel strategy. But it might be a little bit different now because he's really had to pedal that car to get it back up to the front. So maybe a different approach this time around.
Running in 4th place right now is Ryan Norton. As just very quickly, it does look as though that whole gate just peaked out a little bit. They're not going to do anything. But Ryan Norton, he also led laps early in that bright yellow broken arrow machine. Been really good when running out front. Had some very good battles as well throughout the field. And pound for pound, best driver in this race. You've potentially got to consider Ryan Norton being that driver right now, Aaron.
Yes, you do, but I think he is a little frustrated. We saw a little bit of frustrated driving about 20 laps ago, but now it has settled down and is at the back of the 3-car train, which the reason why he might not be frustrated now is of everybody in the top 4, he is saving the most fuel. And as far back as he's lagging behind, I've got to think that he is on the fuel saver strategy. He is putting no pressure. He's just keeping the same distance behind Jonathan Goke, and I've got to think he might be committing to saving fuel.
Running in 5th position for the time being is Derek Murray in the number 15 car. Now, Murray's another one of those drivers, Paul, that started at the rear of the field, started P25, got himself locked in, he got himself a good race car in that last lap motorsports machine, and he really has been getting himself moving. He's got Ricardo Denuso right behind him, but Murray seems to be right now content to be running in clean air, not having to push it too hard, and at the same time just ticking off those laps as we get deeper and deeper into the second half of the race.
Derek Murray, one of the last lap motorsports racers. Last lap has certainly done their homework for this race and has come up with a very good, very stable, very drivable setup. And I think Derek's had himself a very quiet race, but he's been up towards the front pretty much the entire show, and is really putting on a very disciplined drive now. So let's keep an eye on him. He may be a story to talk about here in the next 30 or 40 laps.
Right behind him is Ricardo Denuso in the number 13 car, our first non-American in the field here today. And Denuso has always been exceptional in the IndyCar, Aaron. He's showing it once again here today in that number 13 machine. Just a nice solid drive, and he really came into contention by staying out under that last caution. It works for him, and he now is in a position that he actually, with another caution, can compete for a solid top 5.
I think you're exactly right. He does need a yellow, and if he does get the yellow, Will, I don't think he's just going to be competing for a top 5. I think he'll have a say in who wins this thing. His car, very solid, has been up front, and we saw him at the first part of the race make some really strong passes. So for Denuso, right now, 2.2 seconds or so off the race lead. He is going to need a yellow to get back up there. The duo between him and Murray losing about 1/10 of a second a lap. Of course, 4 cars are going to be faster than 2. But for Denuso, if he gets the right break, he will contend for this race win.
Running in P7 is the Fast Eddie car of Ron Mayer Jr. Now, he's been in the wars a little bit in this race so far. He, of course, started this race in the 3rd place. However, he's kind of been there or thereabouts, not been pushing too hard, Paul, and he's going to be one of those dark horses once he comes to that last 100 miles, because we don't really know what kind of a car he's got underneath him.
And with the kind of shunts he's been having, he might not even know either at this point. But kind of a frustrating day for Ron Meyer. He's had a fast car, but he's had a couple of run-ins with some traffic, and has kind of found himself down in 7th now. But there's a lot of race to go. If he can keep his head about him and just kind of drive his race, he needs to be patient and try and let the race come to him. We've seen that if Ron Meyer tries to push it, he can get himself into a lot of trouble.
Then behind, running in P8 right now, is James Winbanks. Actually just about a car length and a half back from Ron Mayer Jr., our first Australian in the field here today. A couple of Australians running, even though it's silly o'clock in the morning for him. And that LRX racer, Aaron, right now, doing a good job. And again, as I said earlier, a former rookie Indy 500 winner. And in that race, he didn't realise that he was going to contend for the win until those last 10 laps. Here today, he's on a different strategy. He's got a chance to potentially make a couple of waves as we get down into those last 50 miles.
He is another driver just like Denuso that needs a yellow. We saw his car, he was up front, he was able to hold his own. He can do it, but right now, almost 4 seconds off the race lead. He too is going to need a little bit of help unless he is on the fuel saver strategy. Having Meyer in front of him, he may be able to save just a little bit, but not as much as, say, Norton in 4th, but For Swinbanks, strong car, gonna need a little help. Another one of those drivers that's gonna need a little bit of help.
And then, if there's one driver who has completely got his cards to the chest, it is the driver running in that 9th position right now. The number 7 machine of John Paquin, who he's really just been ticking off those laps. And I think once we get down, I'm going to stick with what I said earlier, Paul. Once we get down to that last pit stop, that wing is going to come off. And I think we're going to see Paquin go into the front in this race. We just don't know when it's going to happen because he really has just been holding those cards, as I say, close to his chest, keeping it calm, keeping it collected, and getting it to a point where he can pounce.
Well, John Paquin, certainly we know he has the speed. That's certainly bared out with his qualifying and the speed of his P1 teammates. But also, we know that he is ever the strategist. And if anybody can work out a race much like a chess game, it's going to be John Paquin. You know he's back there right now thinking about when is the time to pull the trigger on this? When am I going to go ahead and, as you say, peel the downforce off and let her rip? And I think that at some point we're going to see that car just light off the afterburner and just start going.
And then to round out your top 10 is Brendan Lichtenberg in that number 8 car. Right now he's kind of running in a bit of no man's land. He's got no one really behind him, no one really in front of him, just ticking off those laps. Well, Lichtenberg, he's kind of in a bit of a bad place right now, Aaron, because he's got no draft, so he's learning slower lap times. He's got no one to save a little bit of fuel from. A bit lonely, I'm going to have to say.
He is on an island on his own, and for Lichtenberg, he has nearly been in about a couple of the incidents. He's had to avoid a couple of the accidents, but this is a Lichtenberg type of race. Quietly moves his way up. We don't mention his name unless we go through the top 10, but if he gets a couple yellows, all of a sudden we will be talking about him in the top 5. That's just the type of race. He is almost an endurance racer of sorts, as always keeps his nose clean and just slowly, steadily moves his way up, and by the end, we're talking about him.
To run through the rest of the guys, good on the lead lap. In P11, you got Dan Brewer, P12, Sam Bontet, P13, Budweiser, P14, Rick Music, P15 is Martin Miller. Then you've got Michael Chin, Daniel Opensky leading out these guys on the lead lap, and Michael Chin actually just making a pass there over Daniel Opensky. One driver who scored 1 lap down, that is Rob Ungelinks, and he is the last of our runners so far. 18 runners in this event, still out of 32. We've lost ourselves just over about a third of the field here, Paul. And what that means is less cars on the racetrack, less chance of there being a caution.
That's very true, and and the guys get spread out the longer these greens go out. Looks like, by the way, John Goke just went around Ryan Norton now, so Goke up into 3rd, Norton back into 4th. Yeah, these guys get spread out. It's a lot easier to stay out of trouble. If something happens on the track, there's a lot more time to see it and avoid it. So definitely less cars on the track, the safer it's going to get. But by no means does that mean that we might be going green all the way through. We have seen when these guys start turning up the wick, you never know what's going to happen. And with the new car, that's even more of a question mark, because again, we've found that if you push these cars and you start fighting them, they're going to start fighting you back.
Rick Music and Budweiser both got passed by Martin Miller down to turn 1 that last lap as well. Martin Miller moving himself up now into the 13th place on the racetrack in that number 3 Banshee Autosport machine. And we've got that nice pack going on at the rear of the field. We've got that interesting pack going on at the front of the field as well. As you mentioned a moment ago, Jonathan Goh getting himself up into P3. Right now is just sat behind Tim Holgate and Ray Alfana. Alfana is still classified as your race leader here today. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see a little bit more of some of the best drivers in iRacing, don't forget that the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series is here at the Brickyard in just about 10 days time, and that will be here on PSR TV and also on iRacing Live as the drivers do 100 laps in the Gen 6 NASCARs, and that will be once again on PSR TV and also on MRN, the Motor Racing Network. And the date for that, well, that is going to be July 29th. Interesting, this is really kind of calmed down. It's like calm before the storm right now, Aaron, because I've talked about the fact that some of these drivers are going to strip some wing off. Once those drivers strip that wing off, this race is going to go crazy.
Yes, we've got it very quiet right now, but when we get to the final 2 stops, yeah, people are going to take down first off. They're going to be more aggressive exiting the pits. And this race, there's no points. There's no points. Running 6th, 7th, 8th isn't going to get you anything. All these drivers are going to want the race win. And when we get to the last quarter, the aggression is going to kick up.
We've got Budweiser on pit road. We've got Ricardo Denuzzo and James Winbanks on pit road. So another cycle of green flag pit stops is kicking off right now. Now, the issue is, for those drivers, that they are potentially just outside a window right now, Paul. They should just about be able to make it, but they're going to have to stretch that fuel on these last couple of pit stops. Denuzzo is in to his pit box. James Winbank is out and away. 55 miles an hour, of course, is pit road speed here in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Back out onto the racetrack they go, and Denuzzo's been able to kind of eke out a little bit more that time by on pit exit, and they are going to go down a lap again.
And on track, Ryan Norton and Jonathan Goke are crisscrossing every straightaway. I have no idea.
Oh.
They were 0.3 of a second behind the leader. Now they're 0.6, and it's going to be over a second as Norton's going to go back to the inside. Oh my goodness, they are racing hard.
So what's happened here is back on lap 137, Goke going into turn 2, the car got very, very tight on him and ran up the hill, and he lost a lot of momentum, and then Norton got around him, and then that fight was on. The net result, of course, as you've noticed, is they've lost the front 2.
They have, as Martin Miller comes down onto pit road to make another green flag pit stop. So it's Norton ahead of Goke. And ahead of Norton is Tim Holgate. Of course, your race leader is still that number 1 car of Ray Alfana. But lap number 139, I'm just doing the math right now. It does seem to be that everyone who pits from now on in will be able to make it on one more pit stop, Aaron. And so far, the fastest pit stop of the race, and as this race is going green, we have to talk about how quickly he get on and off the pit road. Ryan Norton has got the fastest pit stop of the day so far, Aaron.
Yes, he does, and actually amazing because last stop we said Holgate had an amazing stop, but Norton's been able to do one better, but he's going to have to break out that pit stop right now. And did Norton just get very tight out of one? I heard a major lift there. Major lift there.
It looks like it, yeah.
And that's going to allow Jonathan Goke to come back down to the inside of him as they come down into turn number 3. And this is that point right now when those tyres drop off, Paul. We've talked about it all race long. As now Michael Chim's on pit road, Dan Brewer's on pit road. These tyres drop off in those last couple of laps as Ray Alfana is onto pit road early. And this is going to be another blistering stop by him. He gets it down to 55 miles an hour at least. And that yellow cone, hopefully someone set up a Twitter account for it, is safe that time by Paul.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I think what you're seeing here is these guys are starting to see that right front start to go away, and the car is starting to push more and more. And of interesting note here, last stop for Goke was 109. Last stop for Norton, I think, is 111. So Goke was in 2 laps earlier than Norton. Now it doesn't sound like a lot, but we are talking about just that little bit of fuel here, and Goke's coming in now.
So Jonathan Goke comes onto pit road. We've also got Derek Murray, Ron Mayer Jr., Brendan Lichtenberg, Rick Music, and Daniel Lipensky all onto pit road. A couple of drivers are staying out. Tim Holgate is classified for the time being as your race leader. Ray Norton is currently classified in the 2nd place. They are the only 2 guys not to have pitted so far. So if a caution was to come out now, they'd actually be in a very weird situation. Well, they'd fall down the field, but it's chopped some people 1 lap down. Tim Holgate working himself through corner number 3, just getting past a little bit of lap traffic right now. That was Ray Alfano actually, who he puts a lap down, but now we expect to see Holgate pitting down onto pit road. Indeed he does so, and Ryan Norton is going to do so as well. So those 2 drivers onto pit road.
Holgate very fast.
And how fast was he? Would he actually get himself a speeding penalty? He was very close. He does just make it there. Just make it, and that is what you need to do in these last couple of pit stops. Be as close as you can without speeding, and I think that's one of the best pit entries we've actually seen for Holgate. Getting it in, but not fast.
Yeah, very.
He overshoots!
Oh, wow.
Advantage
That's going to be
lost.
huge. That could possibly be the race.
So 17 car, Tim Holgate is a little bit slack coming into pit road, but then he loses it coming in. And actually, he stays ahead of Ryan Norton, but you see that gap. It's actually come down a little bit as Norton then gets the big wiggle over that bump. That was what you were talking about, Norton, onto the grass there. And that is exactly what you were talking about, Paul. People are going to try a lot more to be as hard as they can coming out of pit road. Norton pushed a little bit too much, and the result is he lost out dramatically there.
Yep, 2 spots just from getting it on the grass, and he's lucky he's not intimate with a wall right now. Those do not generally turn out very well for you, so kudos on Ryan to keep that car under him and press on and not lose everything.
So 350 miles in the book, down to the last 150 miles here on PSR TV and on iRacing Live, and it has been a race of speed here today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We've had 3 cautions for 9 laps, 14 different lead changes, but really this race has all been about thinking. It's been a thinking man's race. Now it's this last 150 miles, it's going to become a racer's man's race, but you've got to keep that thinking man. You've got to be a bit like Alain Prost in these last couple of laps to make sure that you're in position. And getting yourself into position, that is what the entire purpose of this run to the next pit stop is, Aaron.
Yeah, and even with having to put the car in reverse, Tim Holgate came out 1.38 seconds in the lead. So just imagine how far of a lead he would have had if he wouldn't have had to have used reverse.
And if he hadn't had to use reverse, he potentially could have pulled away. Having a look at the last lap times, it was a 40.303 there for Ray Alfano, and 40.367 for Tim Holgate. So Alfano is a little bit faster than Holgate. If he can nail together some quick laps with Jonathan goes behind him, I do think that you are going to get this group coming back together. Keeping an eye on the interval, it is about 1.3 seconds on the racetrack. We'll get confirmation what their lap times are the next time they come past the start-finish line. For Tim Holgate this time by, as he comes past that famous yard of bricks, it is going to be a 40.147 there for Tim Holgate and a 40.154 for Alfano. These two are trading lap times, and the issue is, of course, if Alfano falls back about 2 tenths further, then it's almost game over in this event, Paul.
And it seems like the wick has turned all the way up now. These guys are at full rich. It's time to go. So we're going to see what they've got pretty much from here on out. These front runners committed to 1 more stop, and then it's go time. So we were talking about before. When do you change the package? When do you put when do you take the downforce off and make that decision to nail it and see what happens here? For drivers like Paquin, Swinbanks, Lichtenberg, that time is now. For guys like Holgate, Alfalo, and Goke, yeah, maybe not. Maybe you were waiting a little bit longer. It looks like the lap times are not particularly smoking fast, so they may be holding off a little bit and waiting to see if they can make those changes on that last lap.
That last time by there, Aaron, it was 4/100ths of a second they get between Holgate and Alfalo in lap time, and it was Holgate who was faster than Alfalo. So potentially, Holgate could have started to affect some of these changes in that pit stop. See what could happen if you take a little bit off. See what that balance is. If you take a little bit of that downforce off, potentially you've got some left to play with. And again, Holgate faster than Alfalo. This gap's extending when you'd actually be thinking, with Alfalo and Goke and Norton there together, they should be closing in Holgate right now.
Yeah, it's not very often we get a driver that gets to break away from the drift, especially when they had to use reverse in pit lane. That's just how fast of a pit entry he had, which that set the bar. Alfalo, Goke, Norton, they are going to have the pit stop of their life. If we go green the rest of the way, that final stop, they're going to have to nail it.
And of course, you have a look at the big movers in this race, and you've got to say, some of those guys in the top 5 have been huge movers. Ray Alfano up 17 positions, Jonathan Goke up 25 positions in this event. It's been 20 places up there for Derek Murray, and you've got 12 places up. A couple other people's, some big losses here as well. We've got to remember that gains and losses don't mean too much, though, Paul. It all depends on if you're going to be the first one past up the yard of bricks at the end of lap 200.
There's only one lap that counts, and that's the last one. Doesn't matter if you've led every other one before that. So, that's playing very well into these minds of these guys now. I'm watching John Goke. He did pull up to the back of Alfalo for a little bit. Looked like he was going to maybe try and make a move, but he's kind of since backed off. I don't know if he's made an adjustment or that car started to get a little pushy when he got closer to Alfalo, and now he's kind of backed off to try and resort that situation out.
Or it could have been game over. I mean, let's not forget, if these two guys would start going too wide, then it would be talking about a 2.5-second gap between them and Tim Holgate. So why are you battling for P2 when you've got to at least try and work together to get yourself closer to Tim Holgate? These guys have got to work together. But as I was saying earlier, there is, some animosity between some of these drivers in this field sometimes. But it's times like right now that if you're going to have a chance to win a race, you're going to have to put that all to one side, work together for the time being, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, Aaron.
Yeah, right now, for those three drivers, teams don't really matter. The goal now is to get up to Holgate. Right now, it's almost as Norton goes to the inside, which Norton's car was the fastest earlier. Maybe he can lead that charge, but if they do want to work together, they're going to have to sort of, if Alfala knows Norton has the fastest car, Alfala, if that pass is made, they're going to have to do it on a straightaway where it's not going to hinder their speed. If they lose another 3-4 tenths and they gain half a tenth each lap, that's 8 laps wasted. And for Goke right now, we saw Goke and Norton go back and forth. Goke right now almost has to turn that aggression down and just see how fast Norton is.
Yeah, and again, if those two were to start fighting, then actually they'd fall back from Ray Alfala too much. It's a game of chess, and you talked about this earlier, Paul. This is one big game of chess. And those pieces, it's becoming more and more confusing with each passing lap, as we've now got less than 50 laps to go in this event.
Absolutely, and it's all about it's poker at 235 miles an hour. You're trying to read what the guy in front of you is doing. What are they thinking? What's their strategy? When are they going to make their move? And all of that depends on when you decide to make your move. But you go too early and you burn yourself out too quickly, and you just fall right back into the clutches. I'm extremely surprised to see that Holgate is not only that far out front, but he's actually at least maintaining the gap, if not very, very slowly pulling away from Alfala. And this is definitely a breakaway from what we've seen with the pack racing. The common thought is that a pack of cars is faster than a single car, but it looks like Holgate really has found something here in the waning laps of this race.
Give you another random useless statistic. Those last 50 laps between lap 100 and lap 150, lap 101 to lap 150, they were done in 38 minutes. So actually a blistering pace for the second half of this event. And of course we had those 3 cautions in the early going. Ever since then we've been green here on PSR TV and iRacing Live. This race has had a huge green field to it, as did the race yesterday, Aaron. And it seems to be that now here comes Ryan Norton down to the inside. And this is the best place to do it, as you were saying. Down the front straight away. If Norton can cut back into line, which he's going to do, gets the arc for turn number 1. That's exactly what he needs. That gap is 1.3 seconds on the racetrack. That last time by, Norton was the fastest guy on the racetrack. And if he can now catch up to Tim Holgate, we've got ourselves a race.
Go
almost nailed the outside of turn 2. He got really loose behind Alfala. But that speaks again to Alfala's intelligence and race savvy. Could have pushed the issue. He really could have pushed the issue and possibly stayed ahead of Ryan Norton. But at what cost? At this point, and Goke again really loose, so that car is certainly getting away from him. He's got to make some adjustments there. But, Alfala, the thinking man always, maybe, it's not such a good idea to push that issue. Let Ryan Norton take the point. Let him try and pull us along. Maybe he's faster.
And I hate to bring this up, Will, but Tim Holgate has a huge lead right now. That sometimes isn't a good thing. With his last pit stop, he was in the midst of the battle. When you have a big lead like this, it's almost too true. You can become complacent. And we saw him in 16th Street Leagues racing last season. Made so many unforced errors when he was by himself. Yeah. This upcoming pit stop, hopefully in this summer season, he has retuned that, refined that, because he used to be the most consistent driver out there. In fact, he is still pulling away at this moment, but having such a big lead when he comes into the pits, hopefully he isn't complacent.
Well, there's one thing that needs to be talked about there as well, that, he's using more fuel than everyone else as well, Paul.
That is true. And he's, being on that point like that, out on that, not out on that island, You're burning copious amounts of gas. Now, it's not a question of whether he's going to make it or not. They all have to make one more stop. They all are going to be able to take enough gas to make it to the finish. But again, the more gas you've got to put in the car, the longer it takes to do that. These aren't pressurized fueling rigs. These are gravity-fed fueling rigs. They all go, as the race wears on, they go slower and slower. So it's a matter of how long is it going to take him to take that gas? Is he going to be able to, is it going to take a second and a half? How does he get out of the pits? There are a lot of things at play here. By no means is Tim Holgate running away with this race.
And Will, I think the magic number right now is 0.5. Norton, Alfala, Goke need to beat Holgate by 0.5 to get back in that draft range. When we have this final pit stop, one of these three drivers are going to have to be, well, Goke's going to have to be about 0.8 of a second faster, but the draft usually is about 0.9 to 1.1 seconds, and that's what they're going to have to do. And it's going to be more because Ryan Norton is losing ground. We're up to a 1.52 second lead. We
are. And to give you an update on the fastest lap of this race so far, that was set by the number 7 machine, the P1 racing car of John Paquin. 39.556. And Paul, that's a lap at over 227 miles an hour. In fact, 227.3 miles an hour. That's crazy speed. That's your average for this 2.5 mile racetrack.
Yeah, they're certainly turning up the wick. A blistering pace going on at this point. You could tell all of these guys up towards the front want this really bad. Alfala right on the gearbox of Norton now. I don't know if he's trying to encourage him to pick it up a little bit or what's going on there. But, and again, as soon as Alfala got right on the gearbox, you saw that front wing just gave up. I mean, completely just gave up, and the car went very pushy, so he had to back right back off. So something that you could do in the old car was run, attenuator to nose, and be able to buzz around this track, basically just reading the serial number off the back of the wing. You can't do that in this car. This car will punish you for sitting right on the back of something like that. So there is no such thing as pushing a guy along in this thing, or trying to create that sort of draft bubble that you had in the old car. So looking at this now, it looks like pits are probably going to be right around 173 to 175, gives them 25 laps. So, they're not going to be taking a full load of fuel. Every car is going to take a little bit of different load of fuel.
So 19 laps so far in this stint, and as we said, we are getting closer to that magic number of about lap 168, when we think that all of these drivers will be able to get it through without there being any more pit stops. I think, though, that if you look back from P8, all of those drivers really could do with a caution right now. People like Brendan Lichenberg, John Paquin, Sam Bonzett, Dan Bruno, Martin Miller, they need to get a caution to bring them back into this, because otherwise, you can't gain 12 seconds in 30 laps. It's impossible here at IMS.
Yeah, they're all hoping that maybe they're hoping for some, if this were the actual track, they would be, all their spotters, crew chiefs, drivers would be reporting debris everywhere on the track. They'd be saying there was big chunks of metal everywhere. They need a yellow that badly. Right now, there's no way Derek Murray, 5 seconds back, can make that up. And interesting, Ray Alfala running an interesting line. I don't know if his car was overheating from being in the draft for that long, but he has been peering out all the way almost to the grass on the back straightaway and almost to the inside wall on this main straightaway. So I don't know if he's actually running hot.
We have heard a couple of drivers complaining about the fact that in long race situations, their cars are getting a little bit hot. Let's see if he does it on the front straightaway this time. But you see, he's not actually running directly behind the draft there, Paul, of Ryan Norton. He's running half a car out. This is almost going back to his NASCAR and plate racing days. He knows how to do that through racing at Talladega and Daytona. He's doing that here today at IMS. He only did it for a lap or so, though. But we have heard of that overheating issue for some of these drivers.
It doesn't take long to get the temperatures back in line here, so it's very possible that just those 2 laps is all that he needed as a preventative measure. If anybody understands engine temperature and its detrimental effects to the engine over a long period of time, it's going to be Ray Alfala with the experience in the Cup cars. But I've also noticed that, again, as we get further on into the stint here, Gok is having to struggle with a car that is kind of going away from him. Every turn, he seems to be taking a little bit of a wider exit than the rest of the cars in front of him, partly because obviously the draft he's encountering, but also as a product of that, you're beating up on that right front tire every lap because you've got to put a little more steering into it in order to get around the corner. So that right front tire might be running 10 to 15 degrees hotter than he's used to throughout the rest of the race. Now, over the course of a run, that has a cumulative effect on that. So Goat needs to think about either maybe trying to, and it looks like he has actually created a gap a little bit between him and Alfala, maybe to try and rectify that situation. But he needs to be cognizant of what's that going to do to the car.
Here's an interesting thing, Will. When Alfala was running that odd line down the straightaway, Norton and Alfala were actually catching Holgate. Now that Alfala is back on the rear attenuator, that time they gained a little, but they gained a lot. So I wonder if when Alfala's up close, Norton's car just gets a tick loose and scrubs a little bit more speed.
Essentially so. And I want to go back to the issue that Paul was just making about Jonathan Goke there as well. You've got to forget that there's two issues going on. Yes, you get the right front and wearing out, which means that you're going to increase your weight jack. You're going to play about that rear anti-roll bar, make that car turn a little bit more on the rear end. But also, when you do that, you're putting more and more pressure onto that right front tire. So you talk about that cumulative effect. Actually, you're just making the situation worse and worse and worse and worse. We've got a car coming onto pit road right now. That is going to be just outside the window. Get confirmation of who that's Budweiser. Now, he's outside the window at this point in time. Complete this with no other stops. So the situation for Goat, it's one that, he does always need to get himself into some clean air or stop playing all these in-car tools. But you stop playing all the in-car tools, then you still get a brush up high. Instead of, wasting your car, you get him hit in the wall. And that time out of two, Goat was just horribly loose.
Yeah, that car is definitely getting evil towards the end of this run here. I think Goke is just trying to bide his time until he can get to the next pit stop and get some fresh rubber. And I think he'll be fine once he gets to that point. Still, though, he's looking at, I think, about 8 or 9 laps before, well, maybe about 8 laps before he comes in for his pits. So this is going to be a very, very long 8 laps for him. And it looks like Swinbanks is in.
Inuzo and Swinbanks in. Now, they are on the very edge of the window here, Aaron, so they could do with a caution, but they should just about be good to go to the end of this race. They're going to need perhaps a little bit of help. They are right on the edge of the window. It's Martin Miller coming onto pit road here.
Sideways he came on.
Sideways to Martin Miller. But again, a very good entry there for him.
Yeah, very good entry. I wonder if he picked up a speeding penalty earlier in the race because he was within the front 8 and then he became 21 seconds behind the leader. So I think something had to have happened to his car, perhaps a speeding penalty. But as we do have these pit stops, really look out for somebody spinning it on exit. That's how aggressive these drivers are going to have to be, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of our top 4, they are the best drivers out there, but they're going to have to go for it. We saw Norton get very squirrely last time, and one of these drivers might go over the edge.
Gonna have to have a look at the pit stop. I'm going to take Martin Miller as an example. He pitted on lap 107, lap 138, and then on lap 167 to 68. So actually, he's outside of that window. Benuzo, Swinbanks are out of that window right now. They need a caution, otherwise they're not going to be able to make this to the end, Paul.
Absolutely. I think Ray Alfala has just announced that possibly he's going to pit, and we'll keep an eye on this here. But yeah, some of these guys are definitely going to need some help here in order to make it to the end of the race. And if we see a yellow towards the end of this race, it is going to completely change the complexion of this thing. It will quite literally be anybody's game. And Alfala's coming in.
Now, he is right on the edge, and it all depends on kind of what that was a big entry there for Ray Alfana, sliding into pit road. We've got Rick Music on pit road as well. Now, for Alfana, he should be good to go, but he might just have to, save a tiny bit of gas. Derek Murray onto pit road as well. It's run up Mayo Jr., Brendan Lichtenberg onto pit road as well. Let's see if anyone else is going to come on. Yes, they are. Dan Brewer's also going to come onto pit road this time by. Now, for these drivers, it all really depends, Aaron, on what fuel mix setting they've been running. Because if they've been running full rich, they're going to be fine. If they've been running a little bit less than full rich, they can't go to full rich right now until they get themselves about half a lap of fuel saved.
Yeah, you don't want to be in saving fuel right now. And the gap between Holgate and Norton back up to 1.5 seconds, which I stand by my 0.5. That's what Norton's going to have to do as Ray Alfala does go a lap down from coming out of the pit. So Holgate puts him a lap down. So Alfala needs to hope that this race stays green until Holgate comes in, which this race right now seems like it will. And that's actually going to hold up Norton. Norton's going to have to go around the outside of Alfala. That's going to be maybe a few hundreds, which right now that's needed.
Yeah,
It's
and
gonna
that
be worse
gap's
for
actually up to
Goke.
1.6 seconds on the racetrack. As Norton's coming onto pit road and also Holgate coming onto pit road this time by. Will they both get it down? Yes, Norton will get it down. Holgate will get down onto pit road speed as well. The last time that these guys are going to come onto pit road. And Goke is actually classified right now as your race leader, so he's going 1 lap longer. Now, the draft normally is the big thing. However, on this last stop, actually, it's going to be a case of the later you go, the less time you spend on pit road, which translates onto the further up the racetrack you're going to get. And Goke almost hits it there out of corner number 3. Now, he won this race yesterday on fuel mileage. Will he be able to do it here today? If he can go an extra lap, this is going to be interesting. I think he's coming in this time by. Indeed, he is. So Jonathan Goke coming onto pit road as well. From the race lead down to 55 miles an hour, almost actually there, getting himself a speeding penalty. He was very close to speeding. But Holgate, by the way, was able to get out of pit road ahead of Ryan Norton. There is a much closer gap, though. Much closer gap. It's about, I'd say, about 0.6 of a second. It is 0.6 of a second on the racetrack. So Norton's done the pit stop. Alfara is the one who's dropped off the pace now, and he is 2.3 seconds behind your race leader. He has got to hope now for caution, or these two guys ahead of him, Norton and Holgate, to start fighting, because otherwise this race is over for Alfala.
Yeah, for Norton, though, 2 lap cars between him and Rob Ungelnick's gives way, but for Norton, he does have Rick Music in front of him. Let's see where Goke comes out. Goke's on the coming out of 2. I think he's just going to be outside the draft range.
Yeah, he will probably just about be so. He's up to 215 miles an hour. They're going 15 miles an hour than him faster right now. Having a look, and we'll get the interval the next time they come out of turn number 4. He's going to be there or thereabouts. And again, he's in a better position right now than Alfala. He's 1.1 seconds ahead of Alfala. And again, if those two guys start fighting, he will then be in the mix once again. And that gap is, just having a look, about 1.1 seconds on the racetrack. So just at the very edge of draft range, Paul.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to try and make that gap up. 1.2 seconds now. So yeah, if he's feeling any of that draft, it's just a small little lick, but certainly not what Norton is getting from the guy in front of him. So it's going to be very tough for Goke to try and make this gap up. However, Goke has been going a lap or 2 longer every stint than everybody else on gas, and this may help him because he may be able to turn the wick up a little more than the guys in front of him at this point, because he's better on fuel.
Yes, and Goke earlier in the race, it was in a position like this. Goke's car seems to get drafted from further back, and it's only half a second between Goke and Norton. Goke actually closed in about a 10th and a half there, so Goke is in this, folks.
He is in it indeed, and to run through with less than 25 laps to go in this event, it is Holgate from Norton, from Goke from Alfala, Murray, Mayer Jr., Swinbanks, Paquin, Demuso, Lichtenberg. They are your top 10. This race has been green for a very, and I mean very long time now. Over 100 laps here on PSR TV and iRacing Live.
Norton to the inside of the lap car.
That
was going
was
to cost him half a second.
That was not a very good decision by Norton, and again, he's going to force the issue. And this is where you get into trouble, because he forced the issue trying to get into 1 on Music, and then he did it again in turn 2. If Music wasn't aware that was happening, that could have been a very big off.
Norton had to go, though. He had to go. He'd been behind him for 3 laps, and he had to go.
True, but Music has been running the same speeds as the leader at least the last couple of laps. But yeah, I mean, I can see that it's certainly something that has to happen. But now what we're looking at is Goke and Norton are paired off together now. This is their time. They need to run Tim Holgate down. They need to run him down quickly. And
they have got themselves just over 20 laps to do so. The gap right now is 0.9 of a second on the racetrack. Like last time by, Ryan Norton lost 0.3 of a second there for Tim Holgate. It was a 40.043 for Tim Holgate. It was a 40.352 there for Ryan Norton. So these guys have got to get going. And here's one other thing to pay attention to as well. Ray Alfano is back in the mix because of all of that coming back together. If he can get himself past this lap traffic of Ray Music quickly, use that tow, use that draft, I think he can be back in there. But we are looking at a 4-horse race. Tim Holgate, Ryan Norton, John Goat, Ray Alfano. If this race stays green, they are the 4 names you've got to pick out the hat. But Holgate is the one in the driving seat.
And he, not only that, but he is 4 miles an hour faster in the straightaway right now because he has 2 lap cars in front of him. Right now, that is being a big bonus for him. But when he gets to him, how easy will he get around him? This could be the separator between victory or having to battle fiercely for it.
And one more thing to talk about here, Paul, before we get to the last 20 laps. The iRacing.com Indy 500 top split has never finished under caution.
Indeed, and it certainly doesn't look like it's got that feel now. Tim Holgate has a serious problem on his hands, and that problem is Daniel Olszewski and Michael Chin. Those two are fighting for position, so this is not something where these two drivers are just going to want to step out of the way and you know, Tim needs to be cognizant of the fact that these guys are fighting for position. He needs to be very careful. Daniel's being a gentleman, going to let Tim right through. And I'm sure that Chin's going to do the same thing. But it is going to slow him down just enough, possibly, to get Ryan Norton within striking distance here.
And let's not forget, now he's passed those 2 cars, he doesn't get that 4-mile-an-hour speed advantage. Who does get that 4-mile-an-hour speed advantage? Well, it's Ryan Norton in that number 2 broken aero machine. It will then also be Jonathan Goat who's there in that mix. Ray Alfano has been able to gain a little bit there as well. So those 4 cars are the ones that we are going to talk about. Just to let you know, after 3 full sequences of green flag pit stops, there are 13 cars scored on the lead lap. There are currently a total of 4 cars scored 1 lap down. There is 1 driver scored 2 laps down. 18 runners in this event out of the 32 that started. One of the biggest finishing fields that we would have had in iRacing.com Indy 500 history if it stays that way. But what a battle we've got, Aaron, as we are now down with 19 laps to go.
Norton is saying, come on, just 1 more tenth. Give me 1 more tenth. If he gets that, he'll be back within the striking distance. The fight he had with Music, that really hurt him, but Norton's going to catch maybe a little bit tight there. I was about to say he was going to catch the car in front of him in a good spot, but now I don't know. Let's see if he gets hindered in turn 3. Right now he's going to be good, but he may get him in the middle of 4. That's not where you want to get there.
No, and he's not going to get him through 4. He'll have to wait until the front straightaway. And this whole thing, that dirty air is going to come into effect. And Paul, what we were saying earlier about Jonathan Goat, it seems to be when he's in the draft, his car was eating up his right front tyre. We haven't seen too much with Ryan Norton having to overtake drivers in that dirty air. We've got the feeling that he might have been lifting. You see a bit of a wiggle there through corner number 1, using his in-car tools, wearing out that front tyre. He's lost out big time there. And in fact, that gap is now up to 1 second on the racetrack. That one moment there from Ryan Norton could have been a game changer in this race.
Absolutely. You see that as soon as that car gets into the draft, we've seen both the Broken Arrow car and the Last Lap Motorsports car have this issue where they get into that draft.
Oh, Goat kicks the wall out of 4.
Goat did brush the wall, and it doesn't look like it slowed him down any. He's going to try and make a move on Norton here.
Oh, that's not the time to make the move.
Oh, they're going to go side by side. They're going to touch. And Goat has to get out of it there. And that's what we're saying. It's game on. Norton, he wasn't fully inside there, Goat, until he came down into the corner. Norton wasn't going to give him the line. He gave him pretty much 1 car width, and that was it. But that has dropped Goat off the back of Norton. And we talk about the crazy 20. The crazy 20 have started. And what that has done is allowed Ray Alfano to catch up now to the rear of Jonathan Goat in what is the battle for the 3rd position on the racetrack.
Oh, that was not the time. That cost both of them time. I mean, you can fight tooth and nail for second, but second gets you nothing. It's all about the race win. And, oh, Norton needs just 2 tenths to get up there, but the dirty air, he is not getting through turn 1 at all. The good thing is, with 3 cars in front of him, that you do get that big bonus on the straightaway, but right now, Ryan Norton can't even pass the 2 lap cars.
And Goat and Ryan Norton, after that exchange, have been kind of jawing at each other. But the thing about it is, you know, Ryan Norton is not obligated to give Goat room. This is, you know, he is entitled to the line he races. So Goat really doesn't have any bone to pick with him. Norton did give him enough room. They didn't touch. But Norton is the kind of driver, he is going to give you an inch. But that's it. That is all he's going to give you. He will not give you an inch and a half. If you can't make it work, that's your problem.
Car to the wall!
Oh, look out.
Oh, and that is going to not... The race is going to stay green for the time being, and that is Daniel Opensky. Now, if he stops it on the racetrack, this will be a caution. So he's got to be careful here. And this is the P1 racing car of Daniel Opensky. As here comes Goat down to the inside of Ryan Norton. He will get that job done as well. We could have a shootout here at IMS. To give you an update as well, Ray Afana did actually touch the wall under the strangest circumstances down the back straightaway. What happened to him? I think he was looking at his in-car tools, looking down at his dashboard. He just literally glanced the right-hand side wall, the outside wall, down to turn one. Here comes Norton back down to the inside of Goat there. He makes the pass happen, smoke all over the place. But these three have decided that they don't think they're going to be able to catch Holgate. They're going to battle for P2 by the looks of it, Aaron.
And you have about 10 other drivers on the racetrack that their spotters are letting them know that second, third, and fourth are heating up, and they're hoping, praying that these two drivers get together to bring out a yellow. And at the rate they're fighting, I think the odds are good as Goat slams the door. Oh, Norton into the grass! Look out!
Oh, no, he hits the wall. Ryan Norton into the wall there, and into the inside attenuator. This might well be the caution. Ryan Norton upside down. There is your caution. There is your caution on lap 188. Ryan Norton hits the wall there out on turn number 4. And what happened was he tried to go down to the inside. He got blocked in some ways there by Jonathan Goat. We'll have to have a look at a replay of that. Then Ryan Norton, his car just slid up into the outside wall. He is out of the race after, but I said earlier, being pound for pound potentially the best driver in this event. Ryan Norton is out.
And you're going to have two angry drivers there.
And
Norton's going to be angry at Goat. Goat's going to be angry at Norton, but Norton's out of this race.
And Aaron, you were saying all race long, Ryan Norton is his own worst enemy. You know, the frustration. He is just so competitive. And when Goat started making moves on him, he just could not allow it. And this is what happens when you push the issue. And it just looks like, I mean, Goat may have made an early entry, but it certainly doesn't look like to me that he cut anybody off. He made a turn in for the turn, and Ryan Norton had his nose in there, and he got it chopped off. There's no way for Goat to know that he would have tried to make that move. So I can't really say that this is anything on Goat. They were just fighting tooth and nail. And for some reason, Norton felt that that was the place to try and make the move, and it cost him.
I think for Norton, you're going to get hot under the collar there because you're thinking, come on, work with me. Let's get up there. Why are we fighting? Why are we fighting? And the second Goat makes a move, well, the logic you had in your mind of work with me goes out the window. You're not going to work with me. I'm not going to work for you. Let's fight tooth and nail. And, well, game over for Ryan Norton.
What did I say before? These two drivers aren't the best of friends.
No.
And it's one of those things that you're right, Paul. There's going to be two different stories there from two different perspectives. And at the end of the day, that is racing. But the thing is, we are going to have a shootout here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I was about to say that Daniel Opensky actually did get that car back down to the... got himself back down onto pit road. He did abuse the yellow cone, so unfortunately another victim there for the cone. However, we have got ourselves 11 laps to go in this event. Aaron, what's going to happen now?
The big loser of the yellow flag, Tim Holgate. But are we going to get the one to go before 10 laps to go? If so, that will put Michael Chin in between the two. Let's see what happens here.
Wow, let's have a look. Let's have a look. And the lights are still on the pace car. So that means that we are likely to get all of the cars who are scored laps down, sent to the rear of the field. So, Paul, this is going to be a proper shootout.
Yeah, you were asking what's going to happen? What's going to happen is John Paquin. I think this is the guy you need to watch. This is just the break that he needed to try and make something happen. He's all the way back in 7th. He has a distinct disadvantage of some very, very fast, very competitive cars in front of him, but might just have enough time to try and make something happen here. And if a guy has the speed to do it, it's going to be him. But again, you know, now that Tim Holgate is within range of Goke, and we know that Goke needs to get in front of Holgate. He needs to do it fast because that car does not handle very well at all in the draft. So if Goke's going to make a move, he needs to make it early.
And have we seen our last yellow will?
We don't know. We don't know. We are going to step aside for just one quick moment, then we'll be back with the last 10 laps of the 2014 iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Ten laps to go in the 2014 iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 after our fourth caution of the day involving Ryan Norton and Jonathan Goke. It all started down in turn number 3 and then through the short chute, the two made contact. Ryan Norton into the wall. Jonathan Goke lives to fight another day. Your top 5 right now: Tim Holgate, Jonathan Goke, Ray Alfaro, Derek Murray, James Swinbanks. Aaron, this was the caution that some of these guys had been hoping for. People like Swinbanks, people like Ron Mayer Jr. and the dark horse of this event. Now there's that caution, John Paquin. 6 drivers, 10 laps, one of the best drivers in the history of IndyCar. Essentially could happen.
Anybody on the lead lap can win this race. If they start battling for the lead, it's going to stack them up. I wouldn't be surprised if we're 3 wide entering a corner at one point in time. Oh my goodness, we are in for a treat. Well, absolute treat. Derek Murray's had a really fast car. Swinbanks, very fast. How fast are they? All these drivers, you have Ray Alfaro there. He's going to want to write his name in the IndyCar history books. Oh boy, this is going to be great.
So the pace car works itself through the short chute for what we hope will be the final time in this event. Tim Holgate will be bringing the field back to green flag racing here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Potentially expect to see some crazy, insane racing in what will be the last 9 laps of this race. You see Jonathan Goke right now behind the rear of Holgate. He wants to be there, ready in case he pounces. Now he gets going. Good start there for Tim Holgate. A sluggish start for Goke behind. There's lots of battling. Car in the wall.
4 cars.
And that is going to be our 5th caution of the day. And it's John Paquin, another Indy 500. Not going to be finished there for John Paquin. And it was all, he lost it there by himself. You see that the car, the fast Eddie car, Ron Mayer Jr., didn't get going. Paquin had to avoid him as I think he just stepped on the gas at the same time, just implanted it into the wall. Upside down, John Paquin then caught Brendan Lichtenberg, another Broken Arrow driver potentially out of this race. Cautions breed cautions, Paul.
Oh, what a disaster. Paquin just went to nail it. I think Ron Meyer might have been a slow on the gas for him, so he may have had to kind of burp the throttle a little bit. When he hit it again, the turbo was spooled up, and it just turned him right into the wall. Just a disaster. He took out Sam Bonzett, his teammate, on the way into the wall, too. And, oh, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened for Paquin.
And this all started with Murray. Murray spun the tires, and I think the cars behind then lifted, and the accordion effect, Meyer didn't go, Paquin did. Game over.
Now, let's not forget, these guys are on old tyres. That means that going for starts and restarts is going to be more difficult. These drivers also use a number of different gear sets. And the reason for that is, Paul, is because of the fact that a bump on the inside of the apex, on the outside of pit road, they want to make sure they're not in peak revs once they go over that bump. I talked about that earlier. Some guys running very short first gear for the restarts makes it difficult for them on old tyres, and also if they're going to be going over that bump under a green flag pit stop. Now, at the same time, we've got to remember John Paquin, again, one of the greatest drivers that IndyCar has ever seen here on the iRacing.com service. The big stage doesn't work out for him this time with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, I'm sure he's heartbroken by this. Nobody has put more work into this than Paquin, and he's just waiting for his time, and it just happened to be just one small mistake. And you mentioned about the hot tires and the light fuel and the high revs. These IndyCar engines make almost all of their torque in the upper band of the revs. So you get into a situation where you might hit the gas at 8,000 RPM, and it'll feel good until you get to about 11,000. Suddenly those wheels will just break loose on you, and without warning if you're not waiting for it. So these guys have not had a lot of opportunity to practice on old tires and light fuel, and so this is what happens, is you're kind of into the unknown.
So we're going to have a chat then with one of the guys involved in the incident which caused the previous caution to this one, and that is the broken aero driver of Ryan Norton. Now, Ryan, we'll start, before we get to the incident, we'll start with over 100 laps worth of green flag racing. Very competitive out there today, and it seemed to be, on that final stint, you were just starting to reel in Tim Holgate.
Yeah, I think I think I could have got to him. Towards the end of the run, I could just pull him in a couple hundredths, but I was close enough that I only needed about a tenth, and I could start picking up his draft, and it would kind of compound, and I could have caught him. But didn't want to see the caution. Wanted to see a green to the end, but can't say enough about my guys and the group effort we did, and it was a lot of fun. Wrecked out, but I really don't care, because Tim was the class of the field, so if I lose to him, any of those guys, it is what it is. A little bit of a glitch, and that didn't help, and I was too close, and your day's done. But all in all, it was a fun day, and nobody can take that away.
Now, let's talk about the actual incident itself down in turn number 3. And of course, yourself and Holgate had some very close racing up until that point. Take us through what happened from your angle.
I gave him the corner and tucked him behind him. And I don't know if he lifted or just whatever, just the natural course of his line. It slowed up just a little bit, so I ducked inside because I didn't know if he was lifting, and then his car just on my screen kind of glitched. It really wasn't his fault or anybody's, just net correction, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what it causes it, but I know his car was in one spot 1 second, and the next it was in another, and I'm going sideways. I thought I had it saved, and I ran out a little bit of room.
Well, unlucky here today, but of course you've got a couple of people still left in this field who has a chance still of going for victory. Of course, you've been working with Ray Alfano over the course of the last couple of weeks or so. You've still got Brendan Lichtenberg with an outside shot of getting the victory, so still a couple of people to root for your team.
Oh yeah, can't say enough about Ray. Pretty much just helped him out a little bit. He's done everything himself though, on track, and goes to show you why he does so well in the NASCAR rides. You come over here and kind of have his Kurt Busch moment, and I'm rooting for him just because of our association, and hopefully Brendan can sneak a top 5 and maybe, I don't know, get lucky up front if things get really crazy. But it's hard to argue against Tim Gold. He's been the class of the field. Apparently my dog wants a little airtime too.
Hey Ryan, if I can ask a real quick question. Through the course of the race, did you have to make any adjustments to the car at all? And if so, talk us through, so that the listeners understand what's involved in trying to keep this new DW12 consistent through the entire race.
It's kind of like playing chess. I know that cliche is used in real life a lot, but it really is. You have to keep the car balanced. You can get away with the corner, but if you go a lap with the car tight, it compounds, and next thing you know, the car just pushes up the track. So in traffic, you'll maybe go down on the front air B, up on the rear air B, up on the weight jacker, just anything you could do to try to keep it wearing the right side tires evenly. And at the same time, you can't overcorrect one way or another. You still got to lift, and it's really to strike a fine balance between your adjustments and your driving line and the throttle inputs. It's tough. It's a lot of fun if you enjoy that type of racing, and I do. So it was a blast. As far as wing angles and stuff like that, pretty much learned from yesterday, not having enough, really feeling uncomfortable, and added just a little bit, and had a really good car in the draft once the fuel burned off, and really fast out in clean air too. So just like I said, really can't say enough about my guys and the effort we put in. Not quite getting the result we wanted, but it was still fun.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Ryan Norton. Class act in defeat there. Finishing down the field after being involved in an incident which brought out our fourth caution of the day. The lights are off on top of the pace car. We're going to go back to green flag racing with just 5 laps to go. It's Holgate from Goke, from Alfana, from Swimbanks, from Murray, Mayer Jr., Ricardo Denuso, Brendan Lichtenberg, Martin Miller, Dan Brewer. They are your top 10. Let's play a game, Paul. It's going to be called Pick a Winner.
Man, I really like Goke. Personally, I'd like to see Swinbanks take it. I mean, he's been kind of the dark horse all day, kind of running around the back. But here it is, the end of the race. He finds himself in 4th position, within striking distance. It would be a story. But realistically, I like Goke's chances. If he can get around Tim quickly, I think he might be able to pull this off.
Aaron?
And Paul brought up a good point. Get around quickly. Holgate's car does not like being behind a car. So if he makes a pass, Holgate might not only lose 1 spot, but more. And if that's the case, they start fighting. Goat can build out a lead. But can we, how can we mention this without saying Ray Alfala, a true closer? If he can get around Goat, expect him to attack hard on Holgate. Let's hope this green flag is the green to the end. We don't need a yellow.
Indeed so. The next flag we see after this green flag will either be the yellow or the white. If it's the yellow, it will end the race. If it will be the white, then we're in for 2.5 miles of incredible racing. Pace car is in. And ladies and gentlemen, 5 laps to go here in the 2014 Irish Comedy 500. Goke gets sideways there on the restart. That's really going to hurt him and allow Ray Alfana to close up. But what it does, gives Holgate a huge advantage as they come down into turn number 1 once again. That potentially could be the race there. But Goke has now got to do the fastest 5 laps of his life. Ray Alfana is not too far behind. The issue for Alfana is right now, Paul, if he passes Goke now, it's game over. Holgate's won this.
Yeah, this is a particular situation for Alfala. He has to think about, he's got to ride the back of Goke to get up to Tim before he can make the move. But we're working 5 laps to go now, 4 laps across the line. He's out of time.
Here comes James Swimbanks, though, to the outside. Swimbanks going to the outside of Ray Alfana. You saw them dancing for position there down the front straightaway. Will Swimbanks be able to hold it on that outside line? The answer is going to be no, he's not. He's going to tuck it back down to the inside. So there are your top 4 drivers. Derek Murray just a little bit further back in that 5th place right now. The gap as they came across the line was 0.6 of a second. That is too much almost there for Jonathan Goat to close in over the last 4 laps of this race. It's going to take a miracle for him to do so. Here comes Tim Holgate through turn number 3 and 4, and this time by Aaron, 3 laps to go for Tim Holgate, 7.5 miles to victory.
And he can do it. Last lap, Goat was 0.2 faster. Let's see what it is this time. Lead goes from 3,400s to... He loses a 10th, so right now Holgate has this unless Goat can somehow pull a miracle. It looks like Holgate slid a little bit out of 1.
And here they come, Holgate, down the back straight away. Go on, Paul.
Holgate definitely has the faster car at this point. I think that the pushing that John Goat did earlier is costing him now. And the only reason why he hasn't lost 2nd place is because Alfala's had to play defense the last couple of laps against the charge of of James Swinbanks. But now that Swinbanks' pressure is off, we're going to see if Ray can kind of come up and kind of take second. But barring an error, I think Tim Holgate's got this.
5 miles to go here in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. They come down towards turn number 1 again. That time by, it was a 7.72 for Tim Holgate, a 8.45 for John Goke. It is not happening for John Goke as they work themselves down the back straight away again. Aaron, this is it now. Just about 6.5 miles to go for Tim Holgate to victory.
Holgate now, I'm sure he is not going to breathe for the next minute. Just 5 turns now once he gets out of turn 3. 5 turns, but we've seen it, Indy. You're not safe till you get across the yard of bricks on lap 200.
Swinbanks making a move on Alfell. I think he might have made it stick on the outside. He's got it.
He
and
did.
It looks like Murray has followed along. So now Alfell lost 2 spots trying to play defense.
White flag.
The white flag's in hand. There is less than 1 lap to go in the 2014 iRacing.com Indy 500. Here's Tim Holgate. He's got the lead, but it's Swinbanks now up into 3rd position. It's Murray up into 4th. Alfala is down into the 5th position and fading in the last couple of moments of this race. You see Murray potentially looking down to the inside of Swinbanks as they come down to turn number 3 for the final time. They're going to be side by side through 3 and side by side through 4. Looks like Swinbanks might just be able to get that. For Tim Holgate, however, he works himself onto the front straight away. He will become the winner of the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Jonathan Goke will come home in 2nd. James Swinbanks in 3rd. Derek Murray in 4th. Ray Alfano rounds out your top 5. Tim Holgate today shown how you can dominate a race from the front, and he did that on that final restart, Paul.
What a fantastic finish. I mean, Tim Holgate just gets it running away. Definitely just domination in the second half of that race. Just domination. Goke gave it everything he could. And let's talk about him for a minute. Champion of last night's race, and then brings home a 2nd in the next race. Solid weekend for John Goke and Last Lap Motorsports. So kudos to them. And James Swinbanks with that amazing move towards the end around Ray Alfala. What a finish.
Wow, what a finish we had tonight. And all of that, we forget the fact that James Swinbanks moved himself up into 3rd place on the last couple of laps there in that LOX Racing number 25 machine. But Tim Holgate coming down the front straight away. He is coming to the yard of bricks, and this is going to be a victory donut like no other for him, Aaron.
Yeah, you wait all year. And Tim Holgate last year could have been the 16th Street champion. So many mistakes. He really beat himself up. Wow. Momentum's now on his side, and all the bad luck, all the mistakes forgotten. He is an iRacing Indy 500 champion.
And there are the donuts at the yard of bricks. Tim Holgate is a winner in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. He joins Justin Dalton. He joins Tim Doyle, Young O, Brody Kostecki, Dennis Garise, Jonathan Goke as a winner of one of the greatest races in all of sim racing, and he's doing the reverse victory lap this time, Paul.
He stole that from me. What a great run from Tim Holgate. I'm so glad that I'm so happy for him. Nothing quite beats winning this race. You know, you can win 100 races, but it's this one that counts. This is the one you remember. You ask any driver, ask any champion of IndyCar what their most memorable moment is, and without a doubt they will tell you winning the Indianapolis 500. Nothing compares.
And here comes the last lap motorsports drive, the number 5 with Jonathan Goke, just to come and join him on the reverse victory lap. This is going to become a new thing, I think. They're going to go too wide. Oh, no, Goke hits the wall there at turn number 2. Let's run through your final race results then from the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. And at a time of 2 hours, 40 minutes and 31 seconds, Tim Holgate even takes victory in the Panther Online racing car. Jonathan Goke comes home in 2nd place. James Swinbanks in 3rd. Derek Murray in 4th. And Ray Alfano rounds out your top 5. Ron Mayer Jr. in 6th. Ricardo De Nuzzo in 7th. Brendan Lichtenberg in 8th. Dan Brewer in 9th, and then Martin Miller rounds out your top 10. Michael Chin in 11th, Rick Music in 12th, Bud Weishart 13th, Rob Ungerlinks in the 14th position, and Sam Bonzer in 15th. Then John Paquin 16th, Ryan Norton 17th, Daniel Opensky 18th, John Paul's like 19th, and then Mike Owen rounds out top 20. Rest of the results coming up on your screen momentarily. I think we should just step aside one brief moment, get ourselves our breaths back, and then we'll be back for post-race interviews, including a chat with the winner from the 2014 iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. We will be right back.
Fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing.
Justin Dalsand, Tim Doyle, Young O, Dennis Gariz, Brody Kostecki, Jonathan Gogue. They were all iRacing.com Indy 500 champions until today. Today, we had another winner, Tim Holgate, who at a time of 2 hours, 40 minutes, claims victory in this, the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. And we welcome here to the PSR TV iRacing Live booth, Tim Holgate. It's been an up and down career for you in IndyCar racing here on the iRacing.com service. There's been some heartbreaks, but this today has clearly got to be one of the greatest moments in your sim racing career.
Oh yeah, well thanks. I mean, it's been fantastic. I can't thank the guys enough over at Snake Pit Racing, formerly known as Panther Sim Racing. So I mean, the car was amazing. I mean, I cannot thank the guys enough for the car we were able to put together and the team we've got. So, you know, thanks to them. I mean, but wow, this is a race I've been trying to win since they started it. I think I only missed 1 year of being in the top split, and ever since then, just never got a chance. Just had some bad luck in a couple of them. Didn't ever have a fast enough car, and this time, boom, everything clicked together. Made a couple excellent pit outs, and cleared the way. And from then on, it was clear sailing until that yellow. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that long green flag run, it seemed to be you were completely in command. But let's go back to earlier on in the race, because we saw you were leading out front early. It was rather, interesting, easy for you while leading out front. Then once you got yourself into a bit of traffic, that car seemed to go away from you a little bit. The handle of the car slipped up with some very close moments of the wall. Take us through the kind of changes you had to make to the car. Take us through the way that car's balance changed, not only over the course of the race, but over the course of a single fuel run.
Oh, that's probably just me liking to run close to the wall and scaring myself a little bit. That's when we're going like that, I don't ever get out of that mode of putting my lines exactly where I would do them for qualifying. We actually trimmed the car out on, the third and fifth pit stops, I think. So behind traffic, I think we actually had more downforce than anybody else, and that was just me not really trying to focus a whole lot. Your sight lines is a little screwed up behind cars. But the car was great in traffic. It was, there were some close moments there, but that was all me just not concentrating in some cases. But the car was great in traffic. It was great when we got it clear and got the aero trimmed out. It was just, I couldn't ask for a better car.
And then that long green flag run itself, it seemed to be that you were one of the best guys, if not the best guy, on and off the pit road here today. A couple of very close calls coming to pit road, almost getting yourself a speeding penalty. But that... the second one of those pit stops was where you made up the most time. Great pit entry, great pit exit, and then leading. You can see the guys kind of getting closer, and then you pulling away again. How much mental capacity did you need to just carry on focusing on yourself rather than constantly looking at the gap behind?
We ran the race last night as well, and let me tell you, the second and third to last stints where I was out by myself, that was 100% qualifying. That was focus entirely on the line. One of my teammates hopped into our TeamSpeak channel and started talking to me about where I was at, and I basically told him to shut up, which made me feel bad, but it was one of those cases where you don't need a distraction. You're trying to focus, put down laps, because maintaining the gap with this draft is so critical. Once you get a separation, you can maintain speed and not let them get close. That's the only way you're not going to have a drag-out fight at the end of the race, which I'm sure the fans would have loved. But me and the team, we loved having that big cushion.
And their last two restarts there, of course, you got a bit of a sneak preview with the ill-fated fifth caution of the day. And then that final run to the flag, as soon as you could see in your rearview mirror that Goke hadn't had a good start, take us through the emotions that took place in those last 5 laps.
Well, it was elation when I realized, okay, we got a great restart. And then it was time to, nail down and focus on those last couple laps. Make no mistakes. Don't imagine that you've got the race won. Just put the laps in, just like you did in qualifying, and make sure that they can't close up that gap. And I think those guys were looking a little bit in their rearview mirror at the guys battling for second, third, and fourth, and hopefully that. I'm assuming that kept them from pulling up close. Maybe they trimmed out a little too much and couldn't get in my way. But yeah, it was. I called it off for my team who weren't in the they were just watching the broadcast, and we were a little bit ahead, so I was calling off lap after lap, telling them 2 to go, 1 to go. They're a half second behind. Going into turn 3, going into turn 4, didn't JR it this time, and we win. So it was fantastic. Once we were at 2 to go, I was pretty sure I had it in hand. But you don't want to give yourself that that sense of relief, because that's when you stop focusing.
I'm sure there are many people who you'd like to say thank you to. Take a moment and say thank you to them.
Oh, I got to thank, first off, let's thank iRacing, because this is a fantastic sim. It's awesome to be able to come out here, run with some of the best sim racers, get a broadcast, do an interview, and, put yourself in that suspension of disbelief that you're actually a race car driver, rather than having to go mow the lawn later on today. So I want to thank iRacing. I want to thank you guys for the broadcast. You guys do a great job. It makes it, so much fun to come out here and talk to you guys. Thank Snake Pit Racing, my teammates there. They all do a great job at the setups working with us. I definitely want to thank the 16th Street League administrators too, because I get a lot of practice in that league, and we get a lot of competition. And you don't win a race of this caliber without running against some of the best drivers.
Well, congratulations. You add your name to an illustrious list of Indy 500 champions. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2014 Saturday edition winner is Tim Holgate for Snake Pit Racing. The driver who comes home in second place. He won yesterday. Today, Goke, you were just 1 place too short.
Yeah, I mean, first off, congrats to you, Tim. There was no way I was catching you. Awesome, awesome pit stops. I mean, I think I heard you say you were saving a little bit on one of those runs, and we still couldn't catch you. But outstanding. This last lap Motorsports Delar DW12 was amazing. Woo! And that
Now,
speeding penalty I got did not help.
we'll talk about the start of your race first before we talk about the moment. The first part of your race had its ups and its downs. Starting down the field, moved yourself up, got the speeding penalty, back to the rear, moved yourself up again, kept the car clean throughout. Physically, I'm guessing that must have been draining for you.
Extremely. I've got a good bit of sweat going on here, but I mean, it's just amazing racing against the likes of Holgate and Derek and Ray and Ryan. It's just amazing. No, you can trust the people you're running around, and it's just amazing speed at the end.
Then we come down into the long green flag run, and I mean a long green flag run. You had some battles through that one with Ray Alfada, with Ryan Norton. Very close racing between you guys. And that long green flag run really set the tone for the entire race here today. And of course, you're used to that from yesterday.
Yep, true. I was just trying to see if I could set. My whole thing was I didn't want to pit on the same lap of the car, like directly in front or behind me, because I didn't want to have a pit road altercation on entry. So I would try to save as much as I could to get a tad bit off sequence. It wasn't going to be like yesterday with the fuel strategy, the way it was ending up. But just hoping to be easy in, easy out, using the access roads, and just trying to just hold on to that draft, because the draft is everything here, especially the way our car was set up.
And then let's talk about the incident, the one between yourself and Ryan Norton in the short shoot there, which led to the fourth caution of the day and really set the tone to change the race from it being a long green flag run to that sprint shootout at the end. Take us through what happened from your opinion.
Oh, he got an awesome run into 3 and dove in there. I got an awesome run in 3 and dove in there, went a little high. He went to the inside, and I just took my normal line thinking I was clear. Looks like my left Kardashian made some contact with his wing and sent him down. Happy he didn't take Ray out of it as well, but unfortunately took Ryan out. It would have been a great finish for the 4 or 5 of us.
And coming home second with less than half a second to making it the clean sweep of races here, and that actually could have become the first two-time winner of the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. However, I'm sure there's a lot of people you'd like to say thank you to, so go ahead.
It's just everybody a part of Last Lap Motorsports, those Kingsbury brothers, Niall, Seth, definitely Mike Owen and Derek, my 2 teammates in this race. Mike had a little incident where he was off the pace, but Derek had an outstanding run. You get to talk to him a little bit. If I forget the names, Connor, Dave, everybody over there is just amazing. It's just an awesome group to work with, and I'm looking forward to the open season.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Goat coming home in the second place here today, and for both Tim Holgate winning this race here today and Jonathan Goat winning that race yesterday. Paul, it's a moment you can never take away from a sim racer.
No, absolutely not. Again, you can win many races in your career, but the one that sticks in your mind the most is the Indianapolis 500. It's just amazing.
And Aaron, for those 2 drivers, those last couple of laps, it really did come down, in my opinion, that restart. As soon as Goak got himself a little bit loose there, and we talked about warm tyres and the different gear ratios between these drivers, as soon as that happened, it really was going to be a horrible moment if Tim Holgate was to lose that race, because it would have actually been a bit of a J.R. Hildebrand moment.
Absolutely. Once the lead got to about 0.4, Holgate's car was so strong that the draft didn't really matter, which in years past, we wouldn't have seen it. That's just how strong Holgate's car was today, and just that little bit of wheel slip, but hey, first and second place for Jonathan Goat, not too bad, and a great win by Holgate. Well,
let's talk to the guy who rounds out the podium, the highest placed non-US driver in the field here today. The sun's probably just coming up in Australia, so good morning to you, James Winbanks. 3rd place in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Not a bad way to start your day.
No, it's a grand way to start the day. I'm pretty chuffed with that, I have to admit.
Now, we talked earlier on in the broadcast about how you won the rookie edition of the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 back in 2012. You ran last year, you ran this year, getting yourself up into 3rd place, and what was a clearly great pass there get yourself into position on those last couple of laps over Ray Alfano.
Yeah, I can't even remember how that was set up, but all of a sudden I realised that I think Ray might have just been defending really hard, and I'd sort of gotten a run on him a couple of times, and he'd made it pretty clear that he was going to stick it up the inside. So, I just thought, well, 2-3 laps to go, let's just go for it, fling around the outside and see if she sticks, and made it stick, and it's all good.
Now take us through your race, because your race really changed after yourself and Ricardo Danuso went off strategy. Getting yourself up for the field from the teens up into the top 10. But that long green flag run, you were just outside the window by our calculations to make it to the end had the race stayed green.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I had a really good pit stop, which I don't know if it was down to just having a little bit more fuel in my tank when I needed to pit, so I was able to take less fuel on at the time, or if I just benefited from somebody else's bad luck. But I think I made up about 3 or 4 spots in one of those yellow flag pit stops early on, and that kind of really got me into position inside the top 10, where I was able to. I was a little bit off strategy, like you said, but when I was with Ricardo, I think I was saving really heavily, just behind Ricardo, second to last stint, and knew we were going to be short. My teammate Martin Miller was in the same boat, and we both just decided to go for it and hope for a caution. And thankfully that last caution came, because that's what got us over the line eventually.
Coming home third here today in the 2014 Irons.com Indianapolis 500. Anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Huge thanks to my Banshee and AOX teammates for just being awesome and helping put together an amazing setup. Martin Miller is just an absolute genius. John Porzek, Randy Cosno, all the other guys, thanks for all of their help. And to you guys for the broadcast as well.
Thank you. James Swinbanks coming home in the 4th position here today. I'm going to let Aaron to do an interview. He's going to talk to the guy who came home in 4th place, Derek Murray.
Derek Murray, strong run, 4th place, led 3 laps here today. Take us through it. How was your race?
Thank you. It was a long race. I just had an unbelievable race. Started 25th and then running in the top 5 all day. I'm still in shock, to be honest.
When the race started, would you think you would be competing up front and with a chance to win this?
Oh yeah, I knew. We ran the race last night and we had a lot of speed, thanks to Gok, of course. And so we were confident coming in today, but I never thought I would finish in the top 5. I always hoped, but I never expected it.
Well, so you were running up front most of the race. Is there anything you think you could have done different strategy-wise? The field did get separated there for a while. And speaking of that long green flag run, was it hard to stay focused? Say, I think we went 100 laps thereabouts. But once you get 2 green flag pit stops, is it hard to just keep your mental focus and, not look at the fence post or just let your mind stray just for that split second?
Oh yeah, all I was concentrating on was hitting my marks every corner, every lap. That was all that mattered. My race, I had 1 bad outlap, round about lap 110. If I had just stayed on the draft of Gok and the top 4, I could have maybe been in the mix, but I just fell 2 seconds back and I lost the draft, and then I was by myself for the last 100 laps. But the concentration was intense, especially after doing last night's race and today's.
And on the final restart, coming to green, how many ways did you play in your mind that, if the leader does this and they battle for the lead, I'm going to go here? Did you have anything set where, you thought, okay, this would be my chance?
I knew Tim Holgate, and congratulations to Tim. I don't think I've done that yet. He was so fast. I think I knew he had the legs. What my hope was to get behind Gok and try and see if we could work together to try and get Holgate, but it didn't quite work out that way. I was very lucky on the second last restart when I spun the tyres and just stayed out of the wall. But the last restart was it was a free-for-all. Any strategy was out the window as soon as the green flag flew.
So deal with it as it comes. You think, Go, anybody else you want to thank for a phenomenal finish here today?
Oh yeah, for everybody at Last Lap Motorsports, I owe it all to them. First, Ray and Matt for giving me a chance. Then I'm going to forget everybody, but there's Mike Owen and Jonathan Goke, obviously, to build a fantastic setup. We've got Cam, Seth, Niall. I've definitely forgot everybody, but everybody at Last Lap Motorsports, I owe it all to them. I would have been nowhere without them.
And one last thing, you get close, you lead 3 laps. How long of a wait is it till the next Indy 500 for you?
I can't wait for the next one, honestly. It's all I'm waiting for now is May or June or whenever it is. I can't wait for it to come round again, and I'll be fighting for the lead again, hopefully. And it was just a pleasure to run with these guys like Tim and Jonathan and Norton and Ray Alfala especially. I mean, to be able to actually race wheel to wheel with those guys is just phenomenal. Never expected it.
Well, Derek Murray, 4th place, great finish.
Thank you very much.
Well done to Derek Murray for coming home 4th place in the event here today. Now this guy's actually been laughing at me, saying I should go and commentate in his world once in a while. So he came and raced in my world instead. Ray Alfala, your second journey to the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Last time you finished 3rd. This time you finished 5th.
Yeah. This time I had a much better time. These cars drive totally different to what I drove 4 years ago. I'm a little bit disappointed because I wanted at least 3rd again, but I was struggling first 5 or 10 laps of a restart every single time. It was just a little too tight to do anything. But still, it was still a good showing, and big thanks to everyone at Broken Arrow for all the setup help and the pre-race advice, because I had no idea what to expect, and all the setup adjustments you make in the car in traffic and things like that is pretty new to me. I don't remember having to make so many in the old car, so that was kind of overwhelming at times, fumbling around with the steering wheel and the keyboard while in traffic.
So the race for you, it's been in multiple stages. You've led some laps here today. You've had some really good battles with some drivers, and overall you've been on pace into the drop of the green flag. Of course, your qualifying position wasn't as high as you would have wanted it to be, only really starting in the 19th position. You got yourself to the front early, and you kept there throughout the course of this event. How tough was that competition around you today?
It was very tough. For the most part, everybody knew what they were doing. I know my spotters, they were hoping for a wreck fest, and they were like, "Oh, this race is too clean. People out there know what they're actually doing." So, it was just difficult because the aero on these things, sometimes I would get tight for seemingly no reason at all, and then other times it would kind of get loose, and it was kind of hard to predict what the car would do. Eventually, I kind of got used to what it would do, but it would still caught me off guard sometimes. But it's so dynamic as far as what happens in traffic and stuff. You're busy the entire time.
And how does this compare to running in the Peak Enterprise NASCAR Series, powered by iRacing.com, of course, in the middle of the season there? In fact, you're actually coming over to the Brickyard in just about 10 days' time to run the next round of that championship in what's going to be very different circumstances to today.
The only way I could compare it is it's a Talladega race or a Daytona race on steroids. You're going very fast, and the car actually lacks grip behind other cars and stuff, which I wish we had over there. That'd be cool. But other than that, you can't really compare how they drive. They're just totally different, and with these, you have so many driver adjustments that I wish some of the stuff on the stock cars, I wish it would drive like this in the sense that, for example, at Talladega or Daytona, instead of just being in a huge pack and kind of doing stuff, I wish it would get that tight, or I wish there would be that much draft, but I mean, that's just physics. I don't know. I didn't really know what to expect going into the race. I wanted to at least finish the race, and I was very pleasantly surprised that I was up there and able to fight for the win, which is all I could really hope for. I was trying to work with Ryan Norton. I was running the same setup as he was, and it caught me off guard how fast Tim was after that pit stop. he just kind of, he held a second and a half, and we couldn't really catch him back. And then in the last restart, I was too tight really to do anything, and it fell back to fifth. But overall, I had a really good time.
And finally, anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Well, again, everybody at Broken Arrow, everybody on the Swan Team Speak, Chad Coleman, Brian Blackford for spotting. Thanks to you guys for broadcasting, Flip Angle Motorsports, and hopefully we put on a good show. It was a good time out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Alfaro coming home today in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 in 5th place. Don't forget as well, you can catch the next round of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com on the 29th of July, 9 p.m. Eastern Time for 100 laps. Ray Alfaro is currently sat joint 3rd in that championship right now, 14 places behind Nick Arkinger, who leads that championship. Got a couple more people to talk to before we all go off air, and we're going to hand it over to Paul Jenkins, and he has got Brendan Lichtenberg.
And hey, Brendan, pretty solid run considering. Picked up an 8th place finish. And tell us a little bit about your strategy going into the race. You started pretty much in the midfield. What was your thought coming into the race?
Well, I wanted to definitely improve on yesterday. Yesterday I was wrecked out because like 4 cars were barrel rolling in front of me and I had nowhere to go. So I just knew I had to keep my nose clean to finish, and had to play it smart with the fuel strategy a bit too, save a little bit more fuel than others.
And take us a little bit about through the fuel strategy. Obviously, there was a plan going into it, and I think, I don't know if you were there, and I was expecting a lot more yellows in this race than there were. I was pretty impressed actually with how disciplined and how clean the racing was by and large. Did you go into this thinking you'd run a fuel strategy, or did you think you had the speed to run the front all day long?
I think I definitely had the speed, showed in practice, but for whatever reason I was having problems in 2, was getting loose, couldn't keep it flat, planted in 1 going for passes, so got a little frustrated, but I just knew I had to back it out, and I saw the numbers were lining up to make it a 2 or 3 stop race, and I knew just hit the fuel number, and I think I'd be pretty good finish.
And tell us a little bit about your adjustments in the car. Did you have to do anything throughout the race to try and get the car to behave? Did you make any sort of adjustments to the handling, or did you pretty much keep it the way it was pretty much the whole way through?
Well, most of the time I was in traffic, so I kept the same settings. Second 2/3 of the race in, I was basically on an island by myself, and I thought, oh man, this is going to be tough. But I knew I'd hit the mark, and I just had to go as fast as I could and hope for late caution, bring me back in it, and we got that, but I couldn't quite get it done today.
So a little bit of frustration. Obviously, wanted to put up a much better showing. 8th place finish, though, nothing to sneeze at. Over 200 miles, you certainly finished, which a majority of the drivers haven't. So you looking forward to the next one of these?
Yeah, definitely. I think coming in this year, I wanted to improve on last year. I think last year I finished, 11th and also 11th in both races. Definitely looking forward to making this a stepping stone, just move forward and do better next year.
So, Brendan, anyone else you want to say thank you to?
I'd like to thank my team, Broken Arrow. It's a great group of guys. I'm happy to call them my friends. So Ryan Norton, Brandon Trano, Dave Jenks, Gary, Troy Fox, Chad, Peterson, most of the guys in No Bueno, Rob, and Andrew. Couldn't be more happy to be a part of the team.
Very good. Brendan Lichtenberg finishing a solid 8th today at the 500.
What a 500 we've had this year. In fact, we've had 2 500s. We've had multiple Indy 500s. And very quickly, I'd say congratulations to anyone who has won their split of the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500, be it yesterday or today. But Aaron, we're in the DW12, and we never actually made notice of the fact that this is the first Indy 500 in the DW12. It's a very different style of racing to what we're used to in some ways. However, what you always notice is that the cream always rises to the top.
Indeed, absolutely. And I think the future of this car is very bright. The racing with this car we saw today, absolutely phenomenal. And my thoughts of this race is I can't wait till May, till the next Indy 500. It's going to be spectacular. We saw some great racing today, and the future of this car is very, very bright.
And Paul, what we saw here today was you've got to look after your car. You've got to look after your emotions, but also you do need a little bit of lady luck. Lady luck came in the form for some drivers of that final caution. However, for Tim Holgate, lady luck actually came the fact that Jonathan Goke had used his tyres too much in that final stint, getting him a little bit loose on that restart, allowing him to savour those last couple of laps.
Well, absolutely. The idea that Tim could control how he worked his car and control the pace of the cars behind him, you saw that paid off towards the end because he had to abuse his equipment less. So, I mean, just for a moment, Will, you and I have both been driving the Indy car for several years, and we've both driven a lot of miles in this car. And I just remember the conversation when we first got in this car and we first started driving it, and oh my God, it is a game changer for us. It really is just a fantastic car to drive. And, it really, I know it's an overused cliche, but this really is a driver's car. And it's just one of these things where you really have to use your head. And we saw that today in the race. Thinking man's game. It's a chess game. You don't just mash the throttle when the green's out and turn left and whoever has the best setup wins. This really is a lot more to it than just straight setup. And this is exactly the shot in the arm that the IndyCar community needs. So, I mean, if you've been thinking about, for the listeners who are iRacing, if you've been thinking about running a new car, really give this one a try. It really is a fantastic car to drive.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to end because it has been an absolutely amazing day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 800 corners, 200 laps, 500 miles determine another chapter in iRacing IndyCar 500 history. And it is Tim Holgate who took himself to victory lane. And once again, there's never been a two-time winner of the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. For Tim Holgate, for Jonathan Goke, who won yesterday, that journey to winning it again in May starts now. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the next round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series takes place August 2nd, 2 p.m. GMT, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That will take place from the Okayama International Circuit, 83 laps. That will be live on Racebot TV and on iRacing Live. The next round of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.com, will take place on the 29th of July at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for 100 laps. That'll be live on PSR TV, MRN, the Motor Racing Network, and of course, also on iRacing Live. It's been a great day here today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We've seen great racing, fast racing, hard racing. However, one person, and one person only, is going to go to their fridge, get out a bottle of milk, and have the sweetest drink they've ever had. That guy is Tim Holgate. For myself, Will Vincent, from Aaron Likens, Paul Jenkins, and Ian Bushing here on PSR TV and iRacing Live, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing